Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show, coming at you live today from Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Happy to be here with you at our presenting sponsor. Here's the thing. You got a big weekend of sports ahead, starting tomorrow with a Utah football bowl game, Vegas Bowl against Nebraska happening. And if you don't have tickets, you're not heading down I-15, or maybe if you're bougie enough, hopping on a plane to get down there, well, Big Willie's is the right place to watch. 1:30 Mountain Time, we'll have full pregame coverage right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. And, of course, here on the TVs at Big Willie's, let's see, I'm sitting back against the wall next to the Golden Tee machine, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 9 big old flat screens visible to me right now. So no bad seat in the house, and they'll be playing the Vegas Bowl tomorrow at Big Willie's. Number one sports bar in Utah, number one pool hall in Utah, and they're going to be giving away prizes. They're going to have drink specials, all-day drink specials today as well. $3.75 Outlaw Distillery Bourbon, Honey Bourbon, and Spiced Rum Shots. And for the ladies, $6 glasses of Chardonnay. You know what? That's sexist. If you're a gentleman who wants to come in and have a little Chardonnay, $6 glasses of Chardonnay for you as well. All right? There's nothing wrong with your sophisticated taste. Bingo night also tonight at Big Willie's. Come by 7:30 and play. The jackpot is up to about $1,700. Utah Jazz games, Mammoth games, RSL, Utes, even Cougs. Shh. Come down and watch it at Big Willie's. All right, we got a fun show lined up for you today. Some not-so-fun things to talk about on the show today. Announcement out this morning on the old tweet machine and other social medias. John Henry Daly, who was your best defensive player this past year for the University of Utah, John Henry Daly is jumping into the transfer portal. I'm going to do my best to walk you back off the ledge, even as I find myself teetering closer and closer to it. The reason I think it's important to walk back from the ledge is you got to remember that the transfer portal giveth as much as the transfer portal taketh away. And the thing with Utah football and the transfer portal to this point is that unequivocally it has been a net gain. The transfer portal has been something that, yes, has taken some good talents away. Yes, has been upsetting for some people. Last offseason, it took months and months and months, and there's still people who are not over it, for folks to get over the fact that Keanu Tanuvasa hopped into the transfer portal and went to your rival of all places, right? He ended up blocking a field goal in the bowl game one of his best plays of the year. He didn't have an overly spectacular year, if we're being honest, but at the end of the day, he was a good player that you lost to the transfer portal. Think, though, about what you gained in the transfer portal in that same cycle. Think of what Utah was this year as a football team, a 10-win team, with a chance tomorrow to be an 11-win team because of transfer players. Wayshawn Parker, a huge addition in the transfer portal. Nakari Rogers, huge addition in the transfer portal. Devin Dampier, huge addition in the transfer portal. The biggest addition in the transfer portal. John Henry Daly, who is now shopping his services around the country, John Henry Daly is a product of the transfer portal. He came to you out of the transfer portal. So you probably can't be surprised or even upset when a guy like that, a mercenary, a free agent, ends up being exactly that. It's okay. And yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult to replace that production. It was nice to see a Utah defensive end get into that double-digit sack world. The more troubling part about John Henry Daly hopping into the transfer portal for me is I think that, it doesn't bode well for Lewis Powell staying. And we don't have anything definitive on that, but it's trending toward him being a Michigan assistant coach. And I think that Lewis Powell would be a strong influence on a guy like John Henry Daly making a decision one way or another. because Lewis Powell turned John Henry Daly into what he is, helped to turn John Henry Daly into what he is. So did Morgan Scalley, who's the new head coach. John Henry Daly, though, I mean, look, you got to wish him well with whatever happens. He has Big Ten defensive end written all over him. He ain't going to the SEC, all right? He is a little bit under-athletic to be an SEC defensive end. But he is a perfect guy to be playing that position in the Big Ten, at Michigan, at Purdue, at Wisconsin, at Indiana. I mean, he is that guy. Just the overachieving, I did this through the sweat of my brow and molded myself into a player that was an All-American this year. Incredible loss potentially for the University of Utah. Not going to sugarcoat it, but it is the nature of the transfer portal. It is what it is. Now, does it signify a more troubling trend for you Utah football fans? Does this look like something that we should be overly concerned about as we move forward? Because the transfer portal officially opens on Friday. It will remain open for the non-playoff teams for a couple of weeks. For playoff teams, they'll get an extra 10-day window after that. And right now, everyone for this Utah football team, for the most part, is playing it close to the vest. This is the first, big-time impactful player that has announced his intentions to jump into the transfer portal. How many guys do you think this team loses? How many guys do you think Morgan Scalley is able to retain that you want to retain? And who are those people? 877-353-0700. Give me your top five, all right? Top five most important players to retain as the transfer portal window is set to open on Friday. We'll be on the air live on Friday. Tomorrow we got the bowl game. Thursday, of course, is New Year's Day, holiday. Everyone will be sleeping it off or hanging out or doing whatever. Who are the top five players that you need to see retained? Of course, if you were like me and you were laughing at the Michigan writers who, when Kyle Whittingham announced that he was going to be taking that job, immediately people start looking for their angles, right? And they're just like, okay, top three Utah players that you need to have Kyle Whittingham bring with him. Please tell me all of you saw this list. The top three that these Michigan writers came up with were Caleb Lomu, who had already declared that he was going to pursue his opportunities in the NFL draft. That was player number one on the Michigan writers list. Player number two, the aforementioned John Henry Daly. Player number three, Dylan Curtis, the freshman kicker. Like, all right, cool. I don't think that Kyle Whittingham's going to be operating off that list, but go ahead, Michigan writer. Make those your top three. 877-353-0700 or at Real OC Sports. Give me your top five players to retain for Utah football in the upcoming transfer portal. Because
you're saying Dylan Curtis, Dillzilla, is not one of your top five, OC?
I'm going to put him
I don't know about that.
Just outside the top five. I'm going to put the freshman kicker at number 6.
Hey, he's really talented, to be fair.
He's incredibly talented.
And would be obviously great for Utah to retain because he's going into his sophomore year, and even though he had a couple of struggles early on, he ended up rounding out really well. But no, he's not top five.
You're being too nice to the Michigan insider.
No,
okay, it's just a poorly constructed list.
Absolutely.
Now, also the interesting thing here, when I remember initially seeing it, and he was like, John Henry Daly, got to get John Henry Daly, and I was like, John Henry Daly is probably not going to play in the 2026 season.
Hey, he's going to be ready by spring.
Part of the announcement today is that he expects to be fully recovered and ready for spring ball.
It just like Cam was going to be ready for the Florida game 2 years ago, right?
Now, this is something that Utah fans are going to have a little PTSD about because we spent 16 to 18 to 19 months being like, yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, he'll be back next month. Yeah, he'll be back next week. Yeah, he's going to be back. He's going to be healthy. He's going to be fine. Recovery's going well. No setbacks. No setbacks. Keithy's the one with the setbacks. Cam doesn't have any setbacks, but Keithy's fine. Like, if I guess we don't get official injury reports from the University of Utah. We don't know, but John Henry Daly, like, was it not a torn Achilles? Maybe only a partially torn Achilles? I don't wish anything ill upon the young man, obviously. I really don't. Whether he's playing for Utah or he's playing for BYU or he's playing for Michigan. I want him to be successful. I want him to make his NIL money. I want him to pursue his dream. I want him to make it to the NFL where he can become the poor man's George Karlaftis, whatever. I just don't know anything about how you recover that quickly from a severe Achilles injury. Now, there's this magical elixir out there that people don't like to talk about called HGH, okay? And it is hard to detect, and it is a banned substance that nobody really even tests for because it is too complicated and too convoluted and, quite frankly, too expensive to do the blood test to find it. But it is the ultimate recovery magic potion. And I would not begrudge anyone considering something like that because it opens up the economic opportunities that now exist in college football if you get back faster. But that is the only way, if we have any basic understanding of how bad an Achilles rupture or even partial rupture can be for a player like that, the only thing that would get you back on the field quickly enough would be really good doctors and really good illicit substances from the dark web.
Yeah, I laughed out loud when I saw that. He's gonna be ready for spring. Not because it's really funny, whatever. It's just a ridiculous notion. OC.
I mean, if this was a severe injury that had happened in like week 2, we'd be having a different conversation. It was week 11. John Henry Daly earns whatever is coming his way. Unbelievable player who, when you talk to the coaching staff, said, look, we challenged him because, remember, he transferred from BYU after a promising freshman year at BYU. He transferred to the University of Utah. So he's a product of the transfer portal, right? And he had kind of like an underwhelming, lackluster 2024 season, which, of course, was the case for pretty much everyone on the Utah football roster. Wasn't even like much of a regular rotation player. John Henry Daly in 2024 wasn't nearly as good as like a Cash Dillon was in 2025. He was just kind of there, and this coaching staff brought him in for a reason, and they liked him, but they challenged him. And they said, look, you got to be quicker. You got to be more explosive. You got to be better. You got to have, you got to lean on your motor a little bit more. And Morgan Scalley and everyone, Lewis Powell, and everyone that we talked to about his kind of surge in this 2025 season gave the credit to John Henry Daly, saying, look, we challenged him and he rose to the challenge. We challenged him and he responded. So maybe he just is that special. Maybe he's a mutant. Maybe he's Wolverine with some kind of healing factor, and he is going to be ready for spring ball or after spring ball. What matters here is that he's the best defensive player for the University of Utah. And that guy, perhaps because he just wants to explore his opportunities, but maybe because he's like, no, I'm all in on Kyle Whittingham, or I'm all in on Lewis Powell, or I'm all in on something. Like, he has decided, the best defensive player on the team has decided to explore opportunities elsewhere. And it is the nature of the beast, where in college football now, free agency is a reality if you want it to be. If you're a starter with any kind of production, it actually behooves you to test the waters of free agency. I promise you, if it were legal in baseball, football, basketball at the professional level, everyone worth of salt would be putting their name into the transfer portal every year just to see what happens. Every Jazz player, if it were legal under the NBA's collective bargaining, every offseason would just be like, well, I'm just going to throw my name out there and see what kind of offers I get. I'm going to see who courts me. We're not to that point necessarily in college football, but I don't know how we're not to that point. because there's nothing stopping it. And for most coaches, they're not principled enough, or they can't afford to be principled enough to say, if you don't want to be here, you can't come back. If you want to put your name in the transfer portal so everyone in the world can flirt with you, I don't want you back on this team. You can't do that with talented players. John Henry Daly's putting his name in the transfer portal. Michigan's probably the first place that's going to be calling him, talking to him, hoping for his services. Whether they come in 2026 or they come in 2027, obviously if he doesn't play in 2026, that doesn't count against his eligibility. He'll get a medical red shirt for that, and he'll still have 2 years left, right? So a guy like John Henry Daly, the world is his oyster right now. And you cannot begrudge him for exploring this opportunity, even as the most dyed-in-the-wool, red-blooded Utah football fan, because he came to you out of the transfer portal. And that thing giveth as much as it taketh away, and hopefully you can keep it giving more than it takes away. No one will be able to convince me that the transfer portal has taken more from Utah than it has given to this point. It would be factually inaccurate for you to tell me that. Even with Keanu Tanuvasa, even with Jaquindon Jackson, to this point, Utah football has been a beneficiary of the transfer portal. And Kyle Whittingham and his staff, which now includes, of course, which now is led by Morgan Scalley, who was on all those staffs, they were the kind of the first movers in a lot of ways before we called it a transfer portal, before universal waivers existed. They were always out there. Hey, who's a grad transfer? Who's got 1 year of eligibility left? Is there a Darren Carrington who needs a little reputation rehab? John Henry Daly leaving is going to hurt. It's going to sting. But if you can retain the young guys that have showed some promise, you wouldn't be thinking too much about John Henry Daly in 2026 anyway. Today is December 30th in the year of our Lord 2025. I'm going to make a bold prediction for you all right here. James is going to mark this. We're going to put it down. Utah's leading defensive end next year, whoever that is, whoever emerges. We'll say Cash Dillon for the sake of it, right? That person has more on-field production next year than John Henry Daly. Now, maybe not for a whole career, but I am not a believer in rehabilitation working that quickly and that well for a player with a severe injury, a severe lower leg injury, ankle, Achilles, etc., season ender like we thought. I mean, I thought we all agreed this was a surgically repaired Achilles tendon. Am I up in the night here? Did I miss something? So my bold prediction, hopefully it makes you feel better as a Utah fan, is that from a tackles for loss, sack standpoint, whoever is the lead dog in that defensive ends room for Utah next year has a more productive year than John Henry Daly. That's not an insult to John Henry Daly. That's not an attack on his ability to get himself back on the field. It's just the way the transfer portal, especially post-injury transfer portal, has worked out for Utah and for players that are leaving Utah. James, what do you think of that bold prediction? You okay with it?
Love it.
Who are your top 5 players on the Utah football roster that you want to see kept out of the transfer portal or retained even if they end up in the transfer portal?
I mean, Dylan Curtis has got to be there, OC, for
Stop
me.
it.
No, it's a good question. Devin Dampier and Bert Ficklin, even though you can't have two guys playing one position, although, hey, they figured it out down the stretch at certain times, but that was with Jason Beck. But I think those two have to occupy 2 of your top 5.
I think that you got to choose one. I don't think with everything that is out there now, I think you're going to have one. One at most. I mean, there's a potential that neither of those guys come back. And I don't say that to scare people, but that potential exists on every team's roster right now. There's a potential that Bear Bachmeier is sitting quietly in Provo waiting for Friday to say, all right, I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to Notre Dame. I'm going to fill in the blank with whatever team needs a quarterback. Miami called me, whatever. Like, the possibility is there. And it's so – I know I'm stating the obvious, but it is a jarring thing for a football fan to have to adjust to. But it is the reality. And it's not an attack or an insult or an indictment against your team if players explore their opportunities in the transfer portal. It is a symptom of a very ill system in college sports, which, by the way, in football is not even as big of a mess as it is in basketball right now. Have you been paying attention to what's going on in college basketball right now, where all these teams are adding like mid-season players that were drafted in the NBA or were two-way contract players in the NBA or were G League guys and are now bouncing back? And the coaches are like, hey, can we get a little help with this? And the NCAA is just like, no, we don't want anyone to sue us. We're scared.
By the way, OC, one of those teams that added a mid-season player is your running Utes.
It's your running
Utes. From the Spanish professional league.
The Spanish pro leagues. And
he looks like he's really good, by the way.
There's more of a tradition of that. That's less of a new thing, where kind of like the European pro leagues have been a gray area of sorts when it comes to college eligibility. But the NBA never was. The G League never was. American professional sports and NCAA sports were always oil and water. The two things could not coexist and could not mix when it came to actually playing. And now those lines are blurred in a way that doesn't really make sense, even to the coaches who are benefiting from it.
Yeah, I bet the next time we get Alex Jensen on the show, and when you ask him about this edition, because he was somewhat honest with us as tactfully as he possibly could be in the other interviews we've had during the early part of this season, about just how kind of messed up this situation is, this system is in college basketball. I'm sure he's going to say something like, yeah, like what you just said, I don't really know what to make of it, but we got this great player out of it. We're going to do what we can to continue to use it to our advantage, but I don't really know what to make of it.
I mean, and the thing is, if you're a coach who doesn't like it, the way that Kyle Whittingham for years didn't really love the transfer portal, didn't really love pay for play, intelligent people realize, like, if this is the system and there's legality to it, if I, on principle, back up and don't participate, I am handicapping my own roster. I'm hurting my players. I'm hurting my assistant coaches. I'm hurting myself. I'm hurting my university if I don't engage in this. It is the Dabo Swinney thing at Clemson. Remember when Dabo was like the last Power 4 coach who was vocally out there, I don't want to pay these players and I don't want to deal with the transfer portal. And they weren't bringing guys in. And he truly was, in a lot of ways, letting the pay-for-play thing, letting the boosters decide who was going to get the checks. And then finally, even he came around and was like, oh, yeah, I should probably get some good players out of the transfer portal. Because everybody in my league is doing it. Everybody in the country is doing it. Everybody who has expectations to compete for national championships, they're all doing it. So my plan already today was to talk about who you want to keep out of the transfer portal, who you want to protect from the transfer portal, who you want to build a fence around. And that fence, unfortunately, in most cases, has to be built of money. Who are your top five? 877-353-0700, or you can tweet them at me. Wayshawn Parker's got to be in your top five. He had an incredible year, and I think we didn't really get until like the last 4 or 5 games. He hadn't fully separated himself as the bell cow back. He hadn't fully convinced the coaching staff that they should give him more carries than they gave Rodgers, that they should give him more carries than they gave Daniel Bray. Wayshawn Parker. Got to keep him. Wayshawn Parker's name is going to be in the transfer portal, people. He's a product of the transfer portal. He's going to be in the transfer portal. Just count on it, all right? Bird Ficklin has already made the announcement that he's signed. Because of that, I think that you probably have a better chance of keeping him than you have a chance of keeping Devin Dampier. Weird for me to say it. Bird Ficklin's got to be probably number 1 on the list. I'll put Wayshawn Parker somewhere between 2 and 5. All right? Jonnu Hall is one hell of a linebacker. You can't lose him. You have to keep Jonnu Hall. Blake Cotton. Does Blake Cotton still have eligibility? Am I wrong about that? Blake Cotton had an oh no, Blake Cotton is a senior this year. My mistake. Smith Snowden has eligibility. Now, his versatility, not as a two-way player, as a return man, I don't want to see him playing offense anymore. Smith Snowden can play the nickel. You can put him outside. In a pinch, you could probably line him up to be a safety, although he's a little bit undersized for that. Smith Snowden's versatility is going to have a bunch of people campaigning for his services. You already had to stave off really, really good offers last year for Smith Snowden. Is Smith Snowden a Morgan Scalley guy? Is he a Kyle Whittingham guy? Is Smith Snowden I wanted to be at Utah because I saw what was coming in here and I wanted to redeem what happened last year? I mean, he told us, I'm a Ute for life. When we did the show at the campus bookstore, Smith Snowden has got to be on that short list.
You got to. That being said, OC, sorry to cut you off. You got to think that the poll, because he would be a legacy player at BYU, you got to think that there's absolutely going to be a push to try to get him in the portal to go 40 miles south. But you got to think that there might be just a little part of him that would be enticing for him because like I said, his father played there not that long ago, right? So that's something to be wary of, even though guys say stuff and then they do something opposite all the time. He's a Ute for life. Oh, hey, he transferred. So him saying that to you, we want to believe that he's absolutely sincere about that, and he always will be. But, I mean, I would think that the pull to BYU would be somewhat strong for him.
We'll see. Again, I'm not as afraid of BYU as I am of Michigan.
Yeah,
I'm not as
totally
afraid
fair.
of BYU as I am afraid of Texas Tech. I'm not as afraid of BYU in a case like that as I am of Oregon. Last year the SEC was calling him. Why would it not be the case this year? He had an excellent season.
How about ASU? I mean, Kenny Dillingham had a front row seat to him locking down his future first-round draft pick at receiver. Probably Smith Snowden's best game.
Smith Snowden's best game came against a guy who's going to be a first-round draft pick. And if you're Smith Snowden's agent, whether Smith tells you he wants this done or not, if you're doing your job as Smith Snowden's agent, you get that game film. And everyone's got, it's so easy now. They have like the Huddle subscriptions or whatever. It's all on the iPad. Everyone can pull it up. You get that, and you just spam it to everybody in the country. And then you say, Smith, I know that you're loyal to Utah. I know you want to stay here. I know you love Morgan Scalley. But if you're interested, the University of Alabama wants to up last year's offer to $2 million. I'm not trying to build a case for these guys. I don't want them to leave. But this is the reality of the world you're living in right now. And the reality hits you smack dab in the face on Friday. Officially. That's when the transfer portal opened. Unofficially, it's already happening now. The tampering is happening at this moment. Friday is when the rubber really starts to meet the road. And Utah, from what I have been told and the conversations I've had, they are gearing up. They are ready. They're battening down the hatches. They know the storm's coming. They're doing what they can to deploy funds to support Morgan Scalley, the new coach. But it's happening, and it's unavoidable. And the first casualty, if you want to call it that, is your best defensive player, John Henry Daly. Not an easy one to accommodate, to compensate for. All right, lots left to get to. We haven't even talked about the bowl game. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, coming at you from Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. Come see us. Sean O'Connell Show coming at you from Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Getting you ready for a big weekend. They will have the bowl game here tomorrow, obviously 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Number one sports bar in Utah, number one pool hall in Utah. The best place to grab a game, grab a drink, grab a meal, I noticed that we got our sales guy here. We got the tech that sets up the equipment here. They made sure that they got themselves some food very, very, very quickly. And looks like maybe a Bloody Mary or two. All right, I see what's going on here. It's a work day, fellas. It's a work day. Drink specials, $3.75 Outlaw Distillery bourbon, honey bourbon, and spiced rum. There's going to be a balloon pop for New Year's. 9 p.m. before the ball drop, you could have a chance to win some cash. You pop a balloon, anything from $1 to $100 is going to come out of there. 1717 South Main Street in Salt Lake City. The number one sports bar in Utah, recently recrowned as such. Excited about that. All right, I asked the question in our first segment, top 5 players you want to keep out of the transfer portal, or even if they put their names in the transfer portal. Because that thing opens on Friday, people. Who are you trying to keep on the roster for next year? Let's see. We'll go to the tweet machine first. 877-353-0700 or at RealOC Sports. Parker, Wayshawn, okay. Bird Ficklin, Daniel Bray, JHD. That's John Henry Daly's already in the transfer portal. I hope you can keep him out of it. I don't know. And then Scrollin Key on Twitter is cheating with player number 5 because they say Snowden, Teo, Davis, and Benny. I don't think you use 4 players as one player, but I guess one of each of those or one from that group. That's fine. We'll do that. Johnny Utah says, assuming Bird is staying. That's a bold assumption. It's a big assumption. It's all the information we have right now, so let's go with that. Wayshawn, J.J. Buchanan, Hunter Andrews, man, he was injured so much this year for so much of the year that I kind of forgot about his upside and what he could really be for this team. John Uhal, Dallas Vakalahi. Also love that list. And by the way, we're going to find out a lot about Morgan Scalley. Remember there was this trend when Kyle Whittingham was using the versatility of players. More often than not, he was finding a great offensive athlete and moving him to the defensive side of the ball. And we kind of started to expect it, maybe made fun of it a little bit. We're going to find out where Morgan Scalley indexes on that moving forward, because he is also a defensive-minded head coach, very obviously. So are we going to see some of the same thing? Is he going to be as apt to want to play players on both sides of the ball? I mean, that flavor that is going to remain so consistent because you're talking about a guy who played for Kyle Whittingham and then came up in the coaching tree of Kyle Whittingham, was sort of groomed for this position by Kyle Whittingham. He also has ideas of his own about what he wants to do. And that's going to be the most interesting thing here for me. Or maybe not the most interesting thing, but one of the most interesting things here for me is seeing how Morgan Scalley handles the tweeners. And if you can retain Celesi Moa, for example, is he an offensive player or is he a defensive player for your team? I think that the greatest upside for someone like that is you want him to be an offensive player. You want him to become Puka Nacua. But also, he's got the athleticism to be one hell of a corner. Or if he can bulk up a little bit, which I don't know how you remain a run to the litter when Ben Moa is your dad, he might be a linebacker someday. To the text line at 877-353-0700. Jordan on the text line says, Kelvin Obot, Celesi Moa, Jackson Benny / Miss Snowden. I love that everyone's putting Benny and Snowden. Defensive backs are not just like one thing. All right, you got to identify the player. Everyone's cheating and putting 6 and 7 and 8 players on their list. Wayshawn Parker, Hunter Andrews. Also, in the parentheses, he throws in on the text, assuming Bird and Devin have already signed. I don't think – Josh Furlong yesterday said he thinks it's a 90% chance that Devin Dampier is gone. Whether that's to Arizona State or he follows Jason Beck to Michigan, once we get an official announcement on that. A lot of people yesterday, when I asked the question, who do you want to see hired as an offensive coordinator at the University of Utah, a lot of people were like, well, hold on. Is he gone? Is Jason Beck gone? Officially, no. But let's do what we can to remain realistic. When national reporters who have a lot of sources, most of whom are agents, are telling you that it's likely that Jay Hill ends up at Michigan and that Jason Beck ends up at Michigan, that means the most likely scenario is they end up at Michigan. Not only does logic take us to that place, but well-sourced information from people whose every single day living is based on them being sourced well, they're kind of pointing that same direction. I do like, though, throwing Kelvin Obot on this list because the success of whoever the offensive coordinator ends up being coming in and whoever the quarterback ends up being and whoever the running back, if you can get Wayshawn Parker to stay, whoever that ends up being was already going to be in question when you lose 5 starters from your offensive line this year. And if Kyle Whittingham hadn't gone to Michigan, you were going to lose 5 starters. If Morgan Scalley wasn't taken over, you were going to have 5 new starters. If Jim Harding was the guy sticking around, you were going to have 5 new starters. Even if he stays, you're going to have 5 new starters because 2 of them are going to the NFL, your tackles are going to the NFL, and the 3 guys in the middle are out of eligibility. And I think probably all of them get at least a shot to play in the NFL. I know Kump is not as young as he used to be, but, I mean, he's just that kind of grizzled veteran that hopefully will get a cup of coffee at the very least. So, I mean, the Garcia kid that came from Corner Canyon several years ago, we haven't really seen much of him. They've really liked the Allman kid. They've really liked some of these people that have filled in late games. And now you've got, again, I keep hammering this, the highest-rated recruit in the history of the program at any position happens to be a tackle coming in from Fruitland, Idaho, who could, if he wanted to, put his name in the transfer portal on Friday. He's down in Vegas right now with the team as an early enrollee. He's already there. The bowl eligibility thing is so crazy. Bowls don't count towards this past season from an eligibility standpoint. So he's got this, like, free practice scenario. He's down there attached to the team. I think he's more than likely to stay. I think that, you know, he's cut from a slightly different cloth, and I know that he was enticed the right way by the University of Utah. When I say the right way, I mean by a full understanding that at some point he was going to be playing for Morgan Scalley, and a full understanding that they were going to use some of the same model you used to keep Fano and Lomu. You were going to deploy some of that loyalty in the form of funds towards Kelvin Obot. So you got a chance to keep someone like that. Of course, his understanding that he was going to play for Morgan Scalley at some point probably was shaped around the idea that Kyle Whittingham would not be at Michigan. He probably wouldn't have any close ties to Michigan. But here's the thing. Michigan already recruited the kid. He already said no to Michigan. So why would he all of a sudden decide now is the time to jump on that bandwagon?
If the only thing, and we talked about this ad nauseum yesterday, the only thing that makes it realistic that he would consider Michigan again is if Jim Harding, which we somewhat expect him to follow Witt to Michigan too, if that ends up being the case, you know, of course sounds like they did a good job of telling recruits like Obot that Morgan Scalley's probably going to be your coach, or he will be your coach, but guys like Obot probably thought that Jim Harding was still going to be their O-line their position coach too. So yeah, that's the only thing that gives you pause and go, hey, maybe he will consider Michigan, and to the point where he ultimately transfers there if Harding does end up following Witt there. But I mean,
which is why
I don't know.
Which is why I said it's important to have the replacement plan be a good one.
Yeah.
And you should never hire a coach for one player. All right? We've seen it happen in football and in basketball, and we've seen it backfire in those situations. Now, sometimes it works out okay. So you should never hire someone just because you want to keep Kelvin Obot. But you certainly want to retain Jim Harding if you can. Kyle Whittingham wants to bring Jim Harding because of his track record of success. And in the case of somebody like Obot, if you happen to have someone who you could potentially hire who might incentivize him to stay in a way that no one besides Jim Harding could, well, you should at least consider bringing back Jordan Gross. Like, Jordan Gross is the reason, make no mistake, Jordan Gross is the reason that Kelvin Obot is committed to the University of Utah. Jordan Gross had to sign off on, look what Jim Harding has done with all these guys. Look what he did for Garrett Bowles in only 1 year. Look what he did for a bunch of these guys that have come through here and started out kind of like you, where, you know, you're tall, you got a big frame, but you need to add some size, and they do it the right way, and they turn these people into NFL players. Jordan Gross has been on that journey before, okay? He doesn't probably allow Kelvin Obot to come to the University of Utah if he doesn't believe in the process that Jim Harding has put in place. Now, if you take Jim Harding out of it and you say, all right, he's going to Michigan. Now, you can go to Michigan. You can follow him. But I'm going to be at Utah now. Go play for Jim Harding if that's what you think is best for your career. If you think that I'm the guy to trust, you think that I'm the guy that can get you to be a top 10 draft pick like I was, come follow me. I mean, it's a compelling reason to bring back a guy who was already an All-American for you, already one of the best players in the history of your school, and happened to be a college teammate of your coach. And I have on very, very good authority that if that offer comes, Jordan Gross will take it. Had a conversation yesterday that if that's the direction that Morgan Scalley wants to go or is forced to go because Jim Harding follows Kyle Whittingham to the University of Michigan, Jordan Gross would answer the phone call and, barring anything shocking, would come to the University of Utah. That probably maximizes at least this one person's list, or the chances of that list, you know, being kept.
And to your point about you shouldn't hire a coach based off one player. That's the theory behind hiring Jordan Gross, but he's also a guy who's proved to be a really good head coach at the high school level, and obviously got the NFL pedigree. So you're not just hiring him for Kelvin Obot. You're hiring him because he's also a really good coach who can help you retain the best player you've ever recruited.
It's the silver lining, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to hire a guy with no credentials just to keep your top-rated recruit ever, but a guy who already has the credentials that he's got, who might also be able to help you with that. Yeah, let's seriously talk about it. Let's seriously consider it. And by the way, he's not the only one. He's not the only one who could be good at it. Like, Robert Conley played guard for the University of Utah, all right? He was there for Urban Meyer's years. He was there through the Sugar Bowl years. Big Con, who's not so big anymore, is an unbelievable coach, all right? He's also a good recruiter with ties to the Houston area in Texas, so he's got a good footprint in the South and in Texas. Big Con would be an awesome hire. Again, a former teammate of Morgan Scalley, although I believe Con was was either a true freshman or redshirt freshman that Fiesta Bowl year. Like, not nearly as sexy of a name as a Jordan Gross, and doesn't have the connections to Kelvin Obot that Jordan Gross does, but a guy who, on balance, might end up being a bigger asset for you from a recruiting standpoint, because he can go into Houston every year, or he can go into Louisiana every year, or he can go into Florida every year, and he can get you kids out of there that maybe Jordan Gross isn't able to get you.
And you would think that Jordan Gross would vouch for a guy like that too, even though their years did not quite line up at Utah, but he knows the guy. He's got to know the guy, a guy with that kind of pedigree that went to the same school as you, and they were really close to overlapping in their time there. You would think that he would put in a good word to Kelvin about a guy like Big Con.
Yeah. At the end of the day, these guys, these young men, some of them I will call kids, some of them are adults now, because they've crossed that threshold by being in college for a few years and cashing some checks and paying some bills and maybe making a real estate purchase, right? So they're big boys now. Ultimately, they're going to do what is best for them and their families, and that's all that we should expect. But it's your job right now as a coach, if you're Morgan Scalley or you're someone staying on Morgan Scalley's staff or coming to Morgan Scalley's staff or coming back to Morgan Scalley's staff, It's your job to try to influence those decisions to maximize your own success, not only now, not only for 2026, not only for a bowl game tomorrow, but for the foreseeable future, for the next 5 to 10, and hopefully 20 years. Hopefully Morgan Scalley is a good enough coach with good enough support that we get another Kyle Whittingham-style reign. Only time's going to tell. Keep the list of the top 5 players you want coming back to the University of Utah coming in. Whether they're entering the transfer portal or you're trying to keep them out of the transfer portal, give me your top 5 players that you got to retain. 877-353-0700. One of the potential offensive coordinators that maybe folks were looking to get an offer from the University of Utah, he's going somewhere else. He's going to a Big Ten school, but he's not going to a great Big Ten school. We'll talk about where Chip Kelly's headed. And we'll check in with the folks from Big Willie's next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. We're live at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main today. If you can't make it down here and say hello today, that's fine, but you better be here tomorrow for the Vegas Bowl as Utah takes on Nebraska in a game that we have not really even talked about that much yet. It's going to be kind of weird, and we'll get to it on the show. Jerem Jordan's going to join us for some red and blue here in just a second, but the brains behind the operation, no, that's his better half. The muscle behind the operation?
The janitor behind it?
Pat Manos, my good friend, owner, proprietor, operator here at Big Willie's, sits down with us to talk about what they've got going on, not only for the bowl game, but everything coming up for the holidays and whatnot. First of all, how are you?
Good. Doing good. Just, treading water through these holidays like so many of us do.
Don't say treading water when you're the number one sports bar in Utah, all right? Crowned again.
I know. It's awesome. We, the fans voted, the patrons voted, and, we came up on top again.
Also number one pool hall.
And number one pool hall in the state, yeah. It's a big accomplishment.
It's really great. It's great for Big Willie's. It's an awesome place to come down, participate in the trivia nights that they do. So tell me what's going on for the bowl game. You got drink specials all day today. You're gonna have drink specials tomorrow.
Yeah. So the bowl game starts at 1:30, right?
Yep.
We have great specials, guys. We have our Sazerac products on sale, which includes Buffalo Trace at $3.75, which is ridiculous of a price. Our normal price is $6, which is also ridiculous. So we have Wheatley Vodka, which is a Buffalo product on sale that day, and Buffalo Bourbon Cream. So we have lots of good specials. We're easy on everybody's wallet. We're not here to gouge our customers. We want everybody to come in and feel good and leave feeling better because they didn't spend so much money.
Here's what I want you to do. If you know someone who's going down to Vegas for the game, call them and be like, hey, go to any bar in Vegas and order some Buffalo Trace, and then tell me how much they charge you for it. And then you can send them a picture of your receipt with the $3.75 Buffalo Trace pricing on it, because it's going to be like 5 times that down in Vegas.
Yeah, for sure. It's 5 times a block down from us at other bars. So it's really we try to price everything appropriately. So like I said, everybody can come in and enjoy themselves, watch a game, and not leave like they just have to go get a second job.
We got a table sitting over here, and I just saw the food delivered. The food, you've done the hot lunch several times. The food down here truly is incredible, and I've yet to find something on the menu that I don't like. And I appreciate that sometimes you send me stuff that I probably wouldn't order for myself.
Like a spinach salad?
Like a spinach salad, like a veggie burger. But they've all been really good.
Yeah, it's good. The kitchen does a great job. Everything's made fresh to order. All the sauces, all the patties hand-formed. They do a really good job there. It's not, it's way above fast food.
So tomorrow's the bowl game, but it's also New Year's Eve. What's the party going to be like for New Year's Eve?
So New Year's Eve, we like to do a balloon pop. We put different prizes, cash prizes, and if you pop it, sometimes it can be $1, sometimes it can be $100. So everybody has a lot of fun with that. It gets confetti all over the place. Midnight, we'll do a champagne toast for whoever who's standing here. So it's a good time. It's mellow. We don't have a DJ. We just, have the jukebox rolling. You can have a conversation with your friends still and not feel like you're getting your brains, rattled.
So come down, watch the Utah Bowl game, watch the rest of the games that are on. Stick around for the New Year's Eve party with the balloon pop. And, just have a little bit of fun. Take advantage of the great drink specials, the food specials. And whenever you come down, tell them OC sent you, and they'll take extra special care of you because Pat loves me, whether he likes to admit it or not.
I do. I tell everybody.
I like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. We got Jerem Jordan joining us next. Little red and blue. BYU just finished a 12-win football season. The transfer portal opens for them on Friday as well. And what about Jay Hill? Nothing official yet. Make sure you visit Young Automotive Group's year-end sales event, December 26th through January 3rd. That means you got 5 more days of this thing. With a qualifying purchase, receive a $1,000 Amazon gift card, 5 years of maintenance, and 90 days with no payments when you finance with America First Credit Union. Join us for the Ute Game Day pregame show ahead of the Las Vegas Bowl. That's tomorrow, 9:30 to 11:30 at Young Chrysler Dodge Ram Jeep, 1481 West Riverdale Road. That'll be Porter & Company. Young Automotive Group's year-end sale goes through January 3rd. Red and Blue next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Red and Blue with Jerem Jordan, brought to you by friends at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Up to almost $11,000 off on the 2025 F-150s. 0% APR, zero down, zero payments for 90 days. They are hooking you up in the year-end sale at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Jerem Jordan, welcome back to the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Sean. Almost Happy New Year, bro.
Yeah, we're almost there. And same to you. How are BYU football fans feeling right now? I know it was, a little bit of a disappointment that no invitation to the college football playoff came for Christmas, but the Pop-Tarts Bowl, Kalani and the boys seemed to kind of embrace it. It was a fun game, not only the chaos with the mascots, but the gameplay itself, the come-from-behind victory, all that, and capping off a 12-win season now with a bowl win. Got to feel pretty good.
Ecstatic. I think BYU fans are good about, all right, what's within our control, let's move on. Like once it was the middle of the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, we ain't making the playoffs. Now what? BYU had the opportunity to go to the Alamo. If they wanted, they said no because they wanted to just mix it up. That was the first pick. and BYU chose Pop-Tart, and it was a ton of fun. It was a great matchup with Georgia Tech and ACC Player of the Year and Haynes King, and that was a fun game. Obviously, goes down to the wire. Cotton Bowl vibes for BYU fans, making a pick in the red zone to win a big game on a national stage, and the Cougars finished with 12 wins. And now you celebrate one of the best seasons ever. I personally think this was the fourth best BYU team ever. I put 84 and 83 and 96 as the top three, and then because Power Four conference and conference championship appearance and 12 wins and 3 ranked wins in the final college football playoff rankings, I mean, this was one of the best BYU seasons ever. And they did it with a true freshman, which is absolutely crazy. The Cougars have put back-to-back seasons together. They were not a one-hit wonder, and the future's super bright. It's exciting. Obviously, questions surrounding Jay Hill and whatnot to Michigan, just kind of waiting for what seems like the inevitable. But it was an outstanding season, and the future looks super bright for the Cougars.
Is that as much of a done deal as we're going to call it until the announcement is made officially?
It feels like it. I need to double check today, but as of yesterday afternoon, had not told coaches or players, hey, I'm going to Michigan, but I anticipate this will happen. What I really want is the Leonardo DiCaprio gift from Wolf of Wall Street, but I don't think we're going to get it. Jay, and I feel like I was one of the first to kind of say this out loud with you, is like, Jay's going to get, BYU's lucky to have Jay. He's going to get another big gig at some point. Like, he really helped turn around that defense. They've been top 25 the last 2 years and had a certain toughness and a certain ability to take the ball away that really helped BYU compete in the power conference league after they went 5-7. And they've been recruiting at a super high level. Things have never been brighter in terms of the brand for BYU, the recruiting, the arrow is up, and it's bright green. And there's a lot of that with Jay Hill, but it's bigger than Jay. It's bigger than even Kalani, even though BYU's best win of the year was retaining Kalani, and now they can keep this thing going. We'll see if it's, Sean Nua from USC or an internal guy like Kelly Papinga or Justin Enna or Gennaro Guilford, or if they even went outside and brought in like a Justin Wilcox from Cal to be the DC or something like that. But I think BYU is going to be in good hands. They're in great shape.
So if Kyle Whittingham successfully lures Jay Hill away, does that change BYU fans' opinion of Kyle even, or push it even more into the negative ledger? Because I remember sitting on set, BYU TV set, the day of the rivalry game, and I was asked, like, how should BYU fans feel about Kyle Whittingham? This is probably his last season, and I was like, look, you got to appreciate the guy. He's a great person. He's a great coach. And people were kind of booing, like, we don't love Kyle Whittingham. If he steals Jay Hill, they're going to hate him even more.
It's completely understandable to grab Jay. Why wouldn't you grab Jay? Now he's a Ute and Cougar legend, which is hard to do. I guess Kalani has crossed that road. I guess technically LaBelle got a doctorate from Utah, so he's like you, where he got a graduate degree from the other school. I think LaBelle actually got a master's. He got his undergrad from Utah State, his master's from BYU, and a doctorate from Utah, if I recall correctly.
Oh, wow, the trifecta.
He got the holy trinity of grad degrees on I-15. That's pretty good. I think people understand who and what Kyle is. Although, did you see this? Jay Drew tweeted from a press conference that Kyle had down in Orlando ahead of Michigan's bowl game. Is Kyle mentioned, oh yeah, when I played at BYU and for the Cougars here in the Citrus Bowl back in the '80s, like he actually said the letters, that he hasn't said. And
hold on.
Now that he's not at
Kyle Whittingham does say BYU. All right? Urban Meyer was the team down south guy. Kyle Whittingham, several times, I mean, many, many, many times, referenced BYU.
What are you talking about?
He would say BYU. He's not against mentioning his own alma mater.
It felt like he was for a long time, and it was super annoying. Where it's like, you won't even send a letter. No, it's all good. Like, but it is wild, man. It's like the best analogy, and I don't know how you feel. It's just been crazy to be like, wait, what? You divorced mom and you dated like the younger girlfriend suddenly? Like this, you got married super quick. Like it just feels kind of weird for everybody, right?
That is a pretty apt analogy where it's just like you have this 2-decade marriage and it's mostly good, but there's some things that probably bug you about each other, and then the next week You're on some tropical island with the front desk worker from the country club or something.
Chick.
You're like, what the heck? Anyone else from BYU?
It is incredible.
Is there anyone else from BYU you think that follows Kyle to Michigan?
That's a good question. Frankly, I hope not, because I think this defensive staff has been awesome. I think a lot of these guys are connected to Jay, but perhaps more with Kalani, and so we'll see. And will Jason Beck go with him? Like, will this be some Utah conglomeration there? It'll be interesting to see that, man. Wouldn't it have been crazy if Kalani took the Penn State job and Kyle got the Michigan job, and now they're meeting in the Big Ten? That would have been crazy.
It would have been insane, and it would have decimated Power 5 football, Power 4 football in the state of Utah. On both fronts. I don't like that idea. So, is Gary Anderson a candidate for the defensive coordinator position at BYU?
No, and it has, and I don't really like broaching sort of how active people are in the church kind of thing. But to be the coordinator, if you're going to be a member, you got to be pretty active, is my understanding. So, and Gary has been happy to, and I don't know all the details, but Gary's been happy to be behind the scenes and influential in that way. Is he a name that should be thrown in there? Totally. But I think there are some sort of BYU circumstances that might keep him more as kind of an analyst in that space. Same with Chad.
I didn't know that requirement extended to the coordinators. I was only aware that head coaches at BYU had to kind of be, fully dialed in.
I don't know the official take on it, but my understanding is that's why kind of Gary wasn't in the first place, or isn't kind of a higher profile, out there guy in the media with BYU's defense per se. Again, I don't know all the details and the information there, but Gary's influence has been awesome. It's been amazing to have him here. I hope he stays here. If I'm Kyle, I'm like, dude, come along with us. Please help. You've coached in this league at Wisconsin. Help us navigate this. That's what I would do if I was Kyle. I would try and bring Gary Anderson with me for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Jerem Jordan is our guest here, a little red and blue, talking about BYU just wrapping up their season with a Pop-Tarts Bowl victory over Georgia Tech. The transfer portal opens on Friday, and Utah got the bad news today that John Henry Daly, their best defensive player from this past season, intends to enter said transfer portal. Is there any scuttlebutt around certain BYU players that has the fan base nervous?
I mean, some people think Palatau Satawala might, go to Michigan with Jay. He's a guy that's, been loyal to Kalani, loyal to Jay. So that'd be one that I'd keep an eye on. But outside of that, I feel pretty confident that BYU is going to retain most of the guys. I think people that come to BYU typically, for the most part, enjoy their experience here, stay here. There are exceptions, including who you mentioned, John Henry Daly, which I'm hearing Michigan and Texas A&M are interested in him quite a bit. Obviously Michigan, but A&M would be interesting given the connection to his grandpa taught in College Station at Texas A&M, and obviously uncles had played at BYU and Utah and whatnot, almost played at A&M. So that'd be interesting. I think it's mainly Falatau. Not hearing much on anyone else, but BYU's pretty interesting with the portal. Like, if they get a portal guy, it's like a 90% chance they are in the two deep. And that's with a lot of schools. Like, if you bring a guy in, you're not bringing a guy in too much to, hey, ride the pine and be a bench guy. You're coming in to actually play. But I think Carson Ryan was the best example of that. Had an outstanding year, peaked with 8 for 120 in a great game against Georgia Tech. It was fun to see.
Yeah, I got a lot of heat from Utah fans when I talked about how he was a big loss. Everyone was like all in on Tanu Vasa being the big issue there. And certainly, he had a solid season for BYU and he was a big loss for Utah. But I thought that Carson Ryan was going to have this kind of a year, and he ended up doing it. And look, Dallin Bentley at Utah made his presence less obvious, or I guess his absence less obvious, Carson Ryan's absence less obvious, because Dallin really rose to the occasion and had a great year. But Carson Ryan was an excellent player at BYU, and I don't know why people didn't think it was going to be that way.
You were on it, and that's to your credit. Keanu was interesting because I don't think he had the kind of year that he was hoping for. I think BYU, from my understanding, is they were more like, all right, our system is different. You need to plug into that, and then your stats might not be as big, but you need to plug into the system, and this is what we need you to do. And so he ends up with 25 tackles, 4.5 TFLs, 2 sacks. He does block a field goal against Georgia Tech. They kind of swung the momentum, which was a big play. And he mentioned there's a high likelihood of him coming back to BYU. So I'm looking forward to him hopefully getting, closer to, 8 or 10 sacks and be an NFL guy coming up in the future.
So when you talk about Falatel Satawala, and I'm jumping around a little bit here, he's a guy that you look at it and you say, yeah, kid could play anywhere. He's got the frame, got the athleticism, got the speed. One of the interesting things about this dynamic when people are like, oh, who's Kyle Whittingham going to take with him from a player standpoint? Kyle showed up at a Michigan practice and probably was looking around on the field, even though they didn't have a great year as a team, and just be like, oh, my goodness, look at these freaks. Because the Michigan roster and the Utah roster are not equal from a raw talent standpoint. The Michigan roster and the BYU roster are not equal from a raw talent and 5-star recruit and thing like that standpoint. And it begs the question for me, like, how many guys you actually can take from the state of Utah. Now, I think that there's more than a handful. I think that both of these rosters are underrated for the measurables and things like that. But it's not like you could just plug and play everyone from BYU or Utah at Michigan and expect that team is going to, be competing for Big Ten championships, no matter how good the staff is that Kyle puts together. So does it help BYU and Utah that the athleticism bar at Michigan is a little bit higher than either of those schools?
And there's a certain regionality to Michigan recruits nationally, but like you're going to get and I'm going to go on a minor soapbox thing here. In the 1800s, Ohio was in the Midwest, but not anymore. That should be called Mid-East. They have more Mid-East regionally people, right? Like they can recruit wherever they want, but like there could be a poly pipeline that goes to Michigan that wasn't there before with Kyle's connections, obviously. And yeah, you're right. There could be certain people from Utah, but I'm not sure that BYU and Utah get plucked as much as we think because Michigan, granted, they can, transfer it. They just signed 10 4-stars and 2 5-stars, to your point. They were 11th in 24/7 sports recruiting rankings. Like, they don't need a ton from, BYU and Utah per se. Will there be a few that trickle over due to the relationships with current coaches and whatnot? Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think BYU and Utah are in a good spot culturally that they retain probably a lot of these guys.
How much are they going to have to pay Bear Bachmeier? It seems like he really likes Provo. He really likes the BYU thing.
Yeah.
His brother is there. But, he's going to come back next year as a top 20, and I think maybe higher than that quarterback returning in the country after a phenomenal freshman campaign. So, it still is a business.
Yeah, I just want like 15 or 10% of whatever he's getting for my salary. I would take that. Yeah, if I'm him, obviously you go in and you say, hey, this is a great year. I'm wondering if I can get this kind of amount. And, it's all, like we've talked about, it's all structured out of like, okay, if you're an All-American, if you're a first-team all-conference, if you're a starter, if you're this. So BYU is, on it, and they understand, and the fit is really good, like you mentioned. I think Bear, for being a guy who's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, fits super well at BYU, enjoys focusing on ball here, enjoys his teammates, his brothers, as he said a bunch, and obviously got to play with Tiger this year, which is great. And so, the future looks bright, man, at that position with Rider Lions after mission as well.
So, Kalani goes to bat for his assistant coaches. Everyone gets, an elevated pay scale, just like Kalani does. At least that's what the reports came back after the Penn State attempt to poach him to Happy Valley, their version of Happy Valley. And, you would think, oh, that means everyone's happier, everyone's great, and yet you hear the rumor mill, and I don't lend too much credence to most rumor mills, but you hear like maybe Aaron Roderick would rather be at Utah under Morgan Scalley than at BYU under Kalani. Well, he's developed 3 quarterbacks very successfully at BYU, and that's probably undershooting it in terms of the number. And, they had a really good offensive year and a 12-win season. Is Aaron Roderick potentially on the move?
It's a good question. Only Aaron can probably answer, but my sense is that he really enjoys being here, and the ability to be creative and the ability to be at his alma mater. I think obviously it feels like his wings were clipped just a little bit in his time at Utah. It felt like for a time there where, he maybe couldn't kind of expand and kind of do what he's been able to do here at BYU. That's been just kind of my sense observing the past kind of decade there. But Aaron's done a great job. There's some haters of A-Rod. I don't know why. I just look at it's now 3 quarterbacks that have played in the NFL in Zach, Jaron, and Keaton Slovis. And then Bear is one of the best, if not the best freshman QB in America. What else do you want from this guy? BYU offensively, certainly, could they put up bigger numbers in certain situations? Yes, but he is more about just situationally, what do we need to do to win this game? And he's been the OC of a team that's won 23 games last year in a power league. I'm not sure how much better it can be. And BYU's they just recruited one of the best quarterbacks in the country to come here after his mission. So things are going spectacularly. Also, the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year just came from BYU, and L.J. Martin. Running backs have been tremendous with, Tyler Algier recently, and Chris Brooks is in the NFL with the Packers, and now L.J. Martin's probably going to be in the league either next year or the year after that. Things are going great here. I'm not sure what else people want.
Would it be next year or the year after that, do you think, for L.J. Martin making his transition to the NFL?
All the indications I've been told is that L.J. will return. He has yet to say that officially, but multiple sources have told me that he's leaning that direction, which is great. I think BYU should start as the top 15 team if Bear and L.J. return, and that would be the greatest, I think, post-Christmas present that BYU fans can get is, hey, L.J.'s coming back.
After a great year like this, how many BYU guys are going to be impact players from this roster in the NFL, the ones that are moving on?
It's a good question. Jack Kelly seems like the most draftable prospect at the moment, and we'll see who else is kind of in the mix there. But I think it'll be a few years before we see the true kind of NFL impact of these guys with LJ and Isaiah Glasker and what does Chase Roberts end up doing, whether he's a late draft pick or an undrafted free agent. He's a long strider. He's not gonna perhaps hopefully he runs like a 4.59 and he's in the mix kind of like a Puka where he gets on a roster, and I'm not saying he's going to be Puka, but just has a chance even though he's not like a 4.4 receiver in the Underwear Olympics coming up in a couple months. But I think BYU is on its way to producing more NFL talent. And they're winning as a team with guys who were mostly 3 and a few 4 stars. They're going to start to have more 4 stars now in recruiting and produce even more NFL talent. But the development is there. BYU's been recruiting decently and overachieving with those guys. I think they're going to achieve at a higher level with even more talented guys and produce more NFL guys the next couple years.
Can BYU do anything for Puka Nacua right now? Obviously on the field, he needs no help. Some of the off-the-field stuff, you're like, come on, man, don't screw this up for yourself. And he's not too far gone by any stretch of the imagination. He just seems like maybe he could benefit from a little bit more of the BYU-style influence, if I'm making sense there. But officially, it's not their role anymore. Still, the mission statement of BYU as a university, and obviously from the football program's perspective, they want to make sure that they help people, make the right decisions all through life and end up in the right environments all through life and things like that. So is there anything BYU football can do to help Puka Nacua with some of this off-the-field stuff?
Hey, you know that Kalani and everybody's arms are open. Cougar Nation loves Puka. And anyone that knows him knows his intent is pure at heart. And he's a good dude that's trying to do good in the world. And so it's exciting to see what he's done on the field. And we continue to wish him the best of luck with everything because he nearly made the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life yesterday with one hand with the left hand. But
I was
right.
was so sad to see the angle that showed the ball floating. I was like, because I like the 7 different angles. I was like, that is a catch. That's a catch. You can't take that away from him. That's a catch. And then, I hate when the referees are right. But in that case, they were because of that one angle that showed it airborne as he was hitting the out of bounds.
It's crazy. Like with 4 fingers, he almost made top 3 catch in NFL history. It was crazy. I mean, it's funny that it went viral even though he didn't. That's how popular he is.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I'm very, very excited to see what his contract ends up looking like when he becomes eligible for that extension this offseason.
And how about Puka and Fred doing commercials together? NFC West rivals, the BYU guys together. It's just cool to see that those guys have thrived so much in the NFL.
Well, it's truly remarkable, and you and I have talked about this in the past, but it's remarkable the sort of quality versus quantity representation that BYU has pulled off in recent years in the NFL, because I think justifiably so, there was like some criticism and some angst, like, hey, we're not producing the NFL guys. Like even Bronco Mendenhall with a bunch of 10-win seasons wasn't putting a ton of bodies into the NFL. But then it's like, okay, true, but look at what Kyle Van Noy's career has been. Look what Fred Warner's career has been. Look what Puka's doing right now. Taysom Hill. I mean, it's just like it's like one each year ends up being amazing.
And let's be honest, if you have that guy versus a bunch of just kind of backups, it's better to have the one. You have people that people know. They have their jerseys. Like Puka's jersey is super popular. That's what matters. And for BYU, they're hoping that Jack Kelly is that guy that makes an impact at the next level. And then you go beyond that, and then you hope you retain a Palatau Satuala. You hope he's the next Kyle Hamilton, 6'5", rangy safety in the NFL. That's kind of a modern safety that can do it all and ball hawk and a taller kind of Kua kind of guy. Speaking of, so yeah, it's going really well for BYU, and you want more Ziggies and more Taysom Hills and so on and so forth. Taysom's unique. That's not a good example, and Ziggy isn't either because he's crazy different. But it's the Tyler Algiers and the Jamals and the getting these guys to the next level, because that does matter. Like guys want to play in the NFL, and they found that, hey, come to BYU and you can be maybe you're the next Fred, maybe you're the next Puka.
Are you a New Year's resolution guy, Jerem?
Not really. No. Are you?
No, I'm not. My wife's family has a long-standing tradition where you write down goals for the new year. It's like a thinly veiled resolution kind of thing. And then you review them after you write them down. You review them the following New Year's Eve. And it's very sobering to realize that you accomplished none of your goals from the previous year.
That's January 18th for me, where I go, what did I write now?
Well, thanks for joining me today. Have a happy New Year, and we'll chat again soon.
Absolutely. Always great to talk with you, Sean. Thanks, man.
Jerem Jordan, BYU Sports Nation for Red and Blue, brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. Year-end sales going on right now, including 0% APR, 0 payments for 90 days on the new F-150s. Or I guess we can't call them the new F-150s anymore. They are new, and they're 2025, but now that the 2026 model is out, you know what I mean. All right, we're down here at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Pat is kind enough to have us out here every once in a while and to be the presenting sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show every single day. Big plans for the bowl game, big plans for New Year's Eve tomorrow. But it's not, you're not one-hit wonders around here, Pat. You guys are serving the community every single day with great food, great drink specials.
Yes, we always have amazing specials on. Each day they change up. If you don't like what's on special, our everyday prices on whatever you like are decent.
So that's why? Because it's so easy for a bar, for a sports bar even, to just, the margins on alcohol are already incredibly high, but it's so easy to just say, well, that's what it costs. We were talking about the Buffalo Trace specials that you guys have going on. It's easy to put on your menu like, yeah, we could sell it to you for $5, but I'm going to sell it to you for $10, and you guys don't do that.
No, I think when we take our own experiences from when we go out, to dinner, to other bars, and you look at prices and you're just like, gosh, that's a lot. How would that make me feel if I ordered 5 of those? Like
Yeah.
that's an hour of my work day. So we just try to keep things fair. Hopefully we get back what we put in with our easy prices and our good food, and the goal is just to make everybody happy and a good place to come and a good vibe.
And you have been named again the top sports bar in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, we won Best Top Sports Bar, Best Pool Hall, which we're very proud of. You know, we put a lot of work in the upkeep in that pool room to make sure that the guys that come that are the professional players are happy, and then, you know, the everyday player sees that, you know, we have good pool sticks, the balls are nice and shiny, the felt's nice, so we put a lot of effort into it. It's good to see your efforts are rewarded.
Do you ever have to go back there and like kick the pool hustlers out, the people that are like taking money off schlubs like me?
I mean, you know, it's you could get caught up pretty quick in there. Let's just say that. I don't know if people have seen the pool movies lately. They're pretty old. We want to date ourselves here, but I mean, Color of Money. Just go watch those shows before entering.
It holds up. It's still a great show.
Yeah.
But don't think you're going to come down here and hustle a game at Big Willie's.
No. If you want to come down and just hang out with your friends or shoot some pool and have some good food and good drinks, it's a great environment in there. It's a lot of fun. Or just watching these guys play. I mean, I go in there and just watch games for hours. It's pretty remarkable watching somebody that knows how to play pool well. It's a different animal.
Yeah, can't relate.
No, I can't either. It looks easy, but it's not.
Well, yeah, it's like any other thing. People who are really good at something make it look easy, and then you're like, oh, let me try that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Like,
it's
what?
just angles, math. I passed math.
Yeah, not like those guys.
No.
Thanks for having us down here. It's always great seeing
Yeah,
you.
always a pleasure.
Big Willie's is the presenting sponsor of the Sean O'Connell Show. We're down here today. They've got drink specials and food specials going on and getting you ready for the bowl game and New Year's Eve tomorrow, where they'll have the balloon drop with the balloon pop. There's prizes inside the balloons tomorrow. And, of course, Utah versus Utah versus Nebraska in the Vegas Bowl. All right, Daily Dump is coming up next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, the truck with the duck now can handle your plumbing and drain cleaning needs, but also any HVAC. Your vents need a cleaning. Maybe you're looking for a new air conditioner or a new furnace. Valley Plumbing is where you go. Look for the truck with the duck for your plumbing and your HVAC from now on. All right, Daily Dump. We go through a lot of different questions. I teased this earlier, so I want to get to it right off the top. Because when I asked people yesterday, hey, we think Jason Beck's going to Michigan. Who would you like to see Utah hire as the offensive coordinator? There were a lot of responses. People said, bring in Chip Kelly. He's jobless. Well, not anymore. Chip Kelly is going to be the offensive coordinator at Northwestern. This tells you that Chip Kelly is a coach, and he doesn't want to not be a coach. He doesn't want to stop coaching. He doesn't want to stop calling plays, because that Northwestern job right now, that stinks out loud, okay? You're Northwestern playing in a new stadium that financially straps your athletic department in a conference where if you don't have the money to compete with Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, you're screwed, and that's where Chip Kelly is the offensive coordinator now. I wish the timing of this had worked out a little bit differently. I do love me some Chip Kelly. I think he'd be fun to have at the University of Utah, but also he hasn't been nearly as successful as a play caller in recent years as going back to Oregon. He's still kind of living off of some of that Oregon stuff. And don't bring up Ohio State in a national championship, because you have the best personnel in the country. You have the best players in the country. I could have been the offensive coordinator for an Ohio State team, and they still win a national championship.
Oh, see, why not bring up the reigning national champions who are about to be back-to-back? I don't know why you don't bring them up.
James, seriously, though.
No,
if Ryan Day called me and was just like, hey, will you call the plays for this game? I could get Ohio State to at least a win. I don't know if I could do it every single week and against their best competition, but that roster, I could get them to a win.
Well, and there were times last year, really until the playoff, that you were like, this is how you're calling plays when you have this kind of talent at your disposal. So I'm not even sure. I mean, the playoff, they looked like the best. Their offense looked like the greatest offense in the history of the world. Like, they were just killing teams in the playoff. But that's not how they looked all season. So, anyway, I don't know that he was near as good at Ohio State that it looked like he was at the most important time of the year.
So, look, I really like Chip. Chip is awesome to talk to. He's a great dude. He's actually a big fight fan. But the innovation that we saw from him at Oregon, just everyone's caught up. If I'm being honest, I think it's part of the reason why Urban Meyer knows it's best for him to stay out of the coaching positions. There's a lot of reasons it's best for him to stay out of the coaching positions. He's got a great TV gig right now, but those like innovative spread concept, get the speed in space kind of a thing, everyone does that now. You're not fooling anybody anymore. Everyone knows how to scheme against it now. It's almost impossible to trick teams nowadays. You have to be better. You have to be more disciplined in your execution, and you have to have the athletes to physically outplay people. And it's going to be really, really hard for Chip Kelly to look good as the play caller at Northwestern. I mean, I don't like this job for him.
That all being said, for Northwestern, you got to be excited that you got a guy like Chip Kelly, because for Northwestern, incredible hire. Like, when is the last time we even knew who the Northwestern offensive coordinator was, besides when he joined Utah as an analyst, right? If he hadn't the last guy, if he hadn't joined Utah as an analyst last year, we wouldn't have known who the Northwestern offensive coordinator was. Now everyone in the nation knows who their OC is. So, I mean, it's a great hire for them, but I'm with you. I'm not sure if it's really going to yield the results that we all think it will based off of the name and brand Chip Kelly has created for himself.
Pro Football Hall of Fame finalists have been announced. Our guy Eric Weddle needs to be on this list sooner than later. But tell me who you're leaving off of the Hall of Fame vote if this is the list you're presented with. Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Jason Witten, Frank Gore, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Eli Manning, Reggie Wayne, T-Sizzle, Terrell Suggs. It's just a murderer's row there. Now, there are people, I've had this debate before, there are people that are like, you don't put Frank Gore in the Hall of Fame just because of his longevity, and I strongly reject that proposal. I think that's exactly why you put Frank Gore in the Hall of Fame, because he played a position with a short shelf life for 2 decades. He did what nobody else could do. Was he ever the best running back in the NFL? No, and that's usually kind of my litmus test. Were you top 2, top 3 at your position for more than a year or so, and can we tell the NFL story without you? Well, Frank Gore he's a freak outlier. I think extreme longevity should be rewarded with Hall of Fame induction pretty much in any sport, and Frank Gore deserves to be there for me.
Does he, and I mean no disrespect to Frank Gore when I say this, it's going to sound somewhat disrespectful, though, maybe to some people, including yourself, great Niners fan. Always been a Frank Gore fan. But is he kind of like the Kirk Ferentz of this list, though, where it's like Kirk Ferentz is the all-time winningest coach in the Big Ten, but no one would say he's anywhere near the greatest coaches in Big Ten history. Frank Gore is, third all-time in yards, but I feel like there's a lot of people that would say he blended in kind of too much during his career. There's a lot of people that would be like, well, no, he was never top 3 in the league as at any given year of his career. So, and I'd like to reward the longevity, but I wonder if it's like, is he kind of Kirk Ferentz-ish in that way?
Here's another reason why you put him in the Hall of Fame, because he has exactly 16,000 yards.
Yeah, that's a great.
Okay?
Yeah,
it's like when
the symmetry is perfect.
You're filling up the gas, right? And you're trying to, I got to hit that $50, and then you let go of the thing at the exact right time. He somehow did that with rushing yards in the NFL. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, that is actually remarkable. You know what? Kirk Ferentz is the best coach in Big Ten history.
Look, no, it's tough because when you do compare him to the other guys on that list, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, then Frank Gore, number 3, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, Curtis Martin, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jerome Bettis, Eric Dickerson, Derrick Henry, the only active guy in the top 10 right now. He's sitting at number 10. Like, all those other guys are Hall of Famers. And so you're going to tell Frank Gore, sorry, you played a lot longer than most of them. Not a lot longer than Emmitt did, but a lot longer than most of them. And that is going to be used against you here. I think it is the reason why you put him in the Hall of Fame. That's just me, though.
I would love it if he gets in. I just wonder if the fame part, the lack thereof for him, works against him a little too much.
Steve Smith, Sr., former Ute, and Phillip Rivers, not among the finalists. Now, Rivers, he can't be because appearing in an NFL game, signing an NFL contract, playing for the Colts this year, reset his clock for another 5 years. But as we talked about with several guys, Jeff Schwartz, Eric Weddle, etc., it also resets his health insurance eligibility. So for a man with 10 children, that is worth it to come out of retirement and get that premium health care for another 5 years. That's great stuff.
He probably would have been a finalist, right? I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but I feel like I'm in the minority on that. So I feel like he probably would have been a finalist had he not returned this season. He was a semifinalist.
It's really tough when you talk about quarterbacks in the Pro Football Hall of Fame because Phillip Rivers, from a numbers standpoint, belongs in the Hall of Fame. Phillip Rivers, from a one meaningful game standpoint, probably doesn't. He's in that Matt Ryan conversation where these guys were just incredibly prolific, but they never won Super Bowls. Super Bowls, a lot of people are like, that's not a QB stat. Why are you turning it into a QB stat? Well, I'm always here for the debate. Phillip Rivers is going to end up in the Hall of Fame kind of for some of the reasons that you're talking about, maybe Frank Gore not getting in, because the prominence, people knowing who he was and saying he was a top 2, 3, 4 quarterback. You remember for all of those years, we would be like, all right, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. And depending on the year, You'd put Phillip Rivers into the conversation, or you'd leave him out. You put Russell Wilson into the conversation, or you'd leave him out. You put Ben Roethlisberger into the conversation, or you'd leave him out. Phillip Rivers will probably be a finalist. I think he'll eventually get into the Hall of Fame. But there's going to be, now in this modern era where the numbers are so inflated, there's going to be a different lens that you look at some of those guys with, and he could be potentially the first casualty of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. See, when it comes to the Matt Ryan versus Phillip Rivers debate, I mean, Matt Ryan was an MVP. Phillip Rivers didn't really ever get close to winning an MVP. Matt Ryan took a team to the Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers went to one AFC championship game. I mean, I feel like neither one won the biggest game, the Super Bowl. But I feel like Matt Ryan, for me, is way closer to the Hall of Fame than Phillip Rivers.
Let's see. Let's take a look at their resumes, the All-Pro and all that kind of stuff. Phillip Rivers was an 8-time Pro Bowler. He's, according to Pro Football Reference, he was never an All-Pro guy. Matt Ryan was 1-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl. So Matt Ryan less popular than Phillip Rivers, but he has the All-Pro distinction, which is a little bit more prestigious.
And I guess it was his MVP season was the only year he was All-Pro.
Yeah, their total yardage is, pretty comparable, 62,000 plus, almost 63,000 for Matt Ryan, almost 64,000 yards for Phillip Rivers, 425 touchdowns to 212 interceptions for Phillip Rivers, 381 to 183 for Matt Ryan. So, these are the guys that you're going to look at it and you're going to say, do they belong in the Hall of Fame? Their numbers are exponentially better than some quarterbacks who are already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Definitely true.
But did they win? Did they win at all? What the Pro Football Hall of Fame needs to do to start making it even more prestigious is they need to cap every position at like a certain number of players that can be in there. And then they just need to shave off. If you want to put Phillip Rivers in, you got to take Joe Namath out or something like that.
We got to have an elimination process.
You got to because we've already put 100 quarterbacks in. We don't want any more. So who are you taking out so you can put in Phillip Rivers? And there's plenty of guys, by the way, that you'd feel okay taking out. There's quarterbacks in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who have negative touchdown to interception ratios.
Joe Namath might have the worst stats of any Hall of Famer in any sport ever, but he's arguably the most famous quarterback, pre-1990 in NFL history, right? And he's among the most famous quarterbacks in NFL history, maybe not the most famous anymore, but he's still among the most famous ever, and it is the Hall of Fame. But yeah, his stats are terrible.
5-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. He is in the Hall of Fame. He lost more games than he won as a starter. He had a 50% completion percentage. He threw 220 interceptions and 173 touchdowns.
Just terrible. but he predicted an upset win over the best team in the league at that time and one of the best teams of that era, the Baltimore Colts, Johnny Unitas, another really famous old-time quarterback. And it turned out well for them. So he's Broadway Joe. He's super famous. He's a Hall of Famer.
It's why your numbers can't tell the whole story for Hall of Fame in any sport. I think really the best litmus test is, can you write a complete history book, right? That is fun to read. That is not just excessively minute in its details. Can you write the history of a sport and leave somebody out? Then you probably could leave him out of the Hall of Fame. Can you write the history of the NFL without Joe Namath? Well, yeah, but it's going to be slightly less complete and a little bit more boring in those early years if you don't tell the story of Broadway Joe. So, yes, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. It's why I think Dale Murphy belongs in the Hall of Fame in baseball. Not only did he have great numbers, but, you can't just be this multiple-time MVP, we're not going to mention him when we go through that chapter of baseball. It's silly to me.
When you talk about the the influence, how he became a nationwide star because of TBS broadcasting games and home broadcast for the Braves nationwide. I mean, that's a non insignificant, if that's a way to say something, part of baseball history. Even though he didn't win much as a team, the Braves didn't win much when he was there, but he helped further the popularity of baseball via what the Braves were doing with TBS and him being such a standout player. So I think that should be considered when you talk about, can you write the story of baseball without him? I'm not sure you can, because of that, and because he had terrific stats, terrific MLB career.
All right, that'll do it for the Daily Dump, brought to you by Valley Plumbing. Look for the truck with the duck for your plumbing and HVAC needs. We got Jeff Schwartz joining us at 1 o'clock. We got Gordy Chiesa joining us at 1:30. We're at Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. My food has just arrived, which is why I sound a little bit more salivary than I did before. Official media availability for the Vegas Bowl today. What are Morgan Scalley, Devin Dampier, Lander Barton saying? I'll tell you next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Official media availability for the Vegas Bowl today, Morgan Scalley, Devin Dampier, Lander Barton. You can see the quotes all over social media. Everyone's trying to get Devin Dampier to talk about his plans, and the kid has been media trained. He is a smart guy. He says, I'm just excited to be a Ute. I can't wait to finish out and play for these seniors. He is not committing to anything. He's not telling you he's going to be back at the University of Utah. He's been very, very careful in his messaging, and that is important because I think there are a lot of teams interested in his services this year, and his main connection to the university and Jason Beck appears to be headed to Michigan. Does that mean Devin's going to follow, or Devin's going to take an offer at Arizona State, or Devin's going to stay at Utah? Hopefully we get some insight on that sooner than later. Friday is the day that the transfer portal officially opens. We'll keep you posted. Jeff Schwartz is going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. Right now we're sitting down with Patrick one more time at Big Willie's. They've got a New Year's Eve party planned tomorrow and a bowl game to watch. If you don't have tickets for the Vegas Bowl, you're not headed down to Las Vegas, come down here to 1717 South Main. Tell Patrick that OC sent you, and he'll hook you up with drink specials. What are the specials tomorrow?
Tomorrow it's Buffalo Wheatley and Buffalo Cream for $3.75. So really good deals to bring in the new year and watch the Utes victory.
They told me that you've got a Chardonnay special going on today, but it said for the ladies. What?
Yeah,
are we discriminating?
No, I mean we have a wine every day on special. It differentiates throughout the week.
If a big brawny gentleman walks in and he's like, "I would like a glass of Chardonnay," you charge him full price. You give him the special.
We give him the special.
All right.
We want to stay within the laws before us. We don't want to get in trouble, and it happens. We have gentlemen that come in and drink wine all day. So.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good. And then on Sundays for football, we have mimosa special starting at $2.50, which is an awesome deal. 3 different sizes to choose from. And if you guys haven't been down here on a Sunday for football, it's really chill. We got great breakfast specials. We have every game on every Sunday, so there's no fighting over TVs because we have enough to show the whole slate during the day.
So if you're one of those people who's been cutting the cord and trying to figure out how to save on your home television packages, or you're biting Wi-Fi and a password off of your neighbor, you don't have to do that anymore. Come down here on a Sunday, watch every single one of those NFL games. And actually, with the playoffs coming, it's going to be Saturdays, Sundays, Thursday night, Monday nights. This is the kind of the glory days of the NFL season. So multiple nights a week, you should come down to Big Willie's and watch NFL football.
Yes.
All right. Pool Hall is number 1 in the state. Sports Bar, number 1 in the state. The menu, the food menu, is my favorite thing about Big Willie's because I don't imbibe. But, man, these tater tots cooked to perfection, and I'm about to dive into this burger.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate you guys coming down here and helping us get the word out about the sports bar. And it's really like a viewing arena the way we have this dining room set up. So come down and check it out.
Yeah, I told everyone I'm sitting down. I'm right next to the Golden Tee machine. You'll see what I'm talking about when you go or when you come to Big Willie's at 1717 South Main. And quite easily I've got like 7 TVs within a decent sight line. And if I just lean forward a little bit, I add 2 more. So it's easy to come down, watch games. You're not going to have people standing in front of you to where you can't see. Just give it a shot for your next sports adventure that you don't have tickets to. 1717 South Main for Big Willie's. Thank you, Patrick, for having us, and thanks for the grub.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
And Jeff Schwartz will join us next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Sean O'Connell Show, coming at you from Big Willie's today, 1717 South Main. Drink specials, food specials going on all week and weekend long. New Year's Eve party tomorrow after the Utah Bowl game in Vegas. They have a balloon drop where the balloons, you pop them, and there's prizes inside the balloons. $1 to $100, gift cards, all that kind of stuff. Swing on down here to 1717 South Main Street. Welcome in Jeff Schwartz, football expert here on the Sean O'Connell Show, who joins us every single week. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. We have made a development that's been positive. When I say I'm going on with Sean now, my wife no longer asks who. So
after 8 years, 8 years of friendship.
So I said I'm going on with Sean. She's downstairs. I'm like, going on with Sean, and she didn't say who. She ignored me. She might not actually know still, but she didn't say who today. So. I mean, maybe getting us those nice tickets to the PFL event changed her mind on you. I don't know.
I've been meaning to tell you, the schedule that I was sent for next year has a Charlotte date on it. So
does it again?
Do it again.
Oh, we'll get like a babysitter that will stay overnight or something. We'll that was a ton of fun.
Cool.
When is it?
I think it's in the summer. I'll look it up while we're talking.
Okay, great. We are in at Bojangles again. Same place.
I believe so.
Or up? Are you on like the big boy gym, like the Time Warner, the Spectrum Center? But I'm all in again for that, and I'll tell you what. You can say you were right again, which you said last week to me. I think I'm okay to take that again if you would like to say that again while everyone can hear you.
I can't tell you how many times I have cringed and like grit my teeth over the fact that I'm just like, gosh, Jeff, because you're right. The whole thing. You're right about too many things. I don't like it, but the head coach in waiting thing has made this a complicated situation for Utah, and in a way that now it became complicated for Morgan Scalley himself. Now, I will go on record as many times as I need to say I think Morgan's going to be fine. I think he's going to be a great coach at the University of Utah, but the transition is now going to be more difficult, and that is because of how it went down and because of how these last couple of years of people waiting. And you heard Kyle Whittingham admit, like, I did it wrong. When people started asking me about my age and retirement at Utah, I was answering the question instead of just saying, like, none of your business. And so it created these false timelines that put us in the situation we're in now. But, yes, I will reiterate, you were right.
Do you think he told the Utah, Harlan, whoever it was, that he wanted to keep coaching, or do you think they just assumed he didn't and then sort of asked him to step aside? Like, do you think he went to him and was like, I still feel like coaching, and they're like, no, you're done here?
Yes. And,
okay.
And it wasn't quite as simple as that from everything that I've heard, but that when he said I wanted to keep coaching, there was some discomfort in how long he said he wanted to keep coaching and how much money he said he wanted in order to keep coaching. And I think it just, it became untenable, but thankfully not angry, thankfully not ugly between the parties. I think it was just like those discussions led to a point where they both realized that the time to move on was now. And Kyle Whittingham, that was a lot easier to swallow and to accept because his agent had reached out to Michigan. That's what I have put together in my own tiny world timeline.
So when he decided to step away, he was already at least in exploratory talks with Michigan?
I believe yes.
Okay. I mean, that's look, I think that every coach has exploratory talks every year with teams, right? Like that exploratory can be a wide range of things, right? I think that's the agent's job and then the coach's job to at least like think about that and think about it. I just can't believe how lucky Michigan got here. like to have that scandal that you had end up with Kyle Whittingham. I still think he can coach. I think we all agree on that. I understand. I understand that it was time for Morgan Scalley, and certainly that's a fair discussion to have. And Utah fans get pretty upset with me when I sort of talk about how I think that if Kyle Whittingham wanted to stay, he stays. But look, I mean that's the way it went down. And Michigan just got. It was weird seeing that video of him in the Michigan clothes for the first time. But they got a fantastic coach. Why do you think Utah fans, like on the internet, man, some are just like very angry about it. No longer gets a statue. I'm like, what do you mean no longer gets a statue? He's like the best coach you've ever had. What do you mean no longer gets? All that stuff is still happened. It doesn't go away because he went to Michigan.
People are having a hard time right now because Kyle Whittingham, for two plus years, he's been saying, I want to leave the program in a good place. And we believe everything that Kyle Whittingham says. We take his statements at face value because that's kind of what you've needed to do for as long as most of us have known him. And they don't feel like I want to leave the program in a good place can coexist with I'm also taking Jason Beck and probably some players and probably Jim Harding and probably Lewis Powell. Like, people have a hard time allowing those two things to exist in the same world, where he doesn't necessarily have to have ill intentions for Utah while trying to set himself up for success at one of the highest demand jobs in the business.
So do you think that like Morgan Scalley was going to keep the entire staff? That everyone's going to roll back to what it was, or was there going to be any sort of adjustment to the staff? Like, was he just taking over? This is the coach of wedding thing that I don't like personally, because I feel like when you're a head coach, you need to have your own things. It's your own like job now, and just keeping the same staff but trying to be sort of the old coach, but you have to be the new coach. Like that, I think, just really hard needle to thread. So I don't think it's terribly a bad thing for Morgan Scalley to find his new offensive coordinator. Like, that feels like something that would be good for him. It's his job now. Find your OC that's going to fit what you need to do. Now, Jim Harding's a big loss because he's such a good coach. So the Jordan Gross stuff, like, he might actually coach. Like, that's a real thing.
I've been told by very good authority that if Morgan calls him and says, we want you to do this, he's in.
Oh, awesome. I should probably text him and be like, yo, you need a assistant offensive line coach who works from Charlotte? I'm in.
Working remote as a football coach would be the funniest thing ever.
If what?
Working remote as a football coach would be the funniest thing ever. It is possible, by the way, because they've had those, like, they have those little robots where you can put an iPad on it and it's a camera. Like, it's happened when guys have been in the hospital and stuff like that. So maybe you could be the first one to do it full time.
Just like, I'm only going to work 4 hours a day watching film of the opponents. Look, it's kind of funny. Like a lot of my friends are becoming coaches now. You know, like you and his kids. I think Jordan's kids are older now, so the hours make more sense, right? Like that. You know, part of it, a lot of guys just don't want to do because the hours are really difficult. But if his kids are older now, maybe it makes more sense for him to be the offensive line coach. He texted me before a playoff game 2 years ago and asked me to draw up plays for him. They were facing a defense that he needed some more eyeballs on. And I drew up plays for him. He's like, my kids can't run this stuff. I was like, I'm sorry. Like I drew up like a bunch of like sort of like fancy stuff, because he said the linebackers they were playing were really, really good, and we can't block them. So how do I like design run plays to avoid having to block their linebackers? So I drew up a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of that had eye violations and moving parts, just to like get linebackers seeing the wrong things. He's like, yeah, we just can't do this. So that was very funny. But Jordan's awesome. He's my mentor. Like, I hope he gets opportunity to be a coach. If that's what he wants, he'd be excellent at it.
When you committed to play for Oregon,
yeah,
what were you committing to most? Like, your position coach, the guy that recruited you, the school itself, the scheme that you were going to be playing in? What was the thing that you were most committed to?
I think it was the program, like the whole thing. I don't remember specifically committing for Mike Bellotti. I remember committing because I liked everything about the program, and that obviously has something to do with Mike Bellotti, right? Yeah, but I like my offensive line coach. I like the real family vibe Oregon had. It just felt like a very like comfortable place to be, and you know that's why I did it. I've said this for a while, man. I don't think players are committing for other reasons besides the same stuff I committed for. Yes, there's money involved now, and some of it is really important. Some of it's not. Some guys are not making a ton of money. They're going to commit to places for the same reasons that I committed in 2004. And I know what I know really what you're asking about. And I feel like, when you really do commit, it's about the program, man, and it's about if Morgan Stanley could keep that program going. And to me, this is the hardest part, is you want to keep the foundation, because the foundation has worked, But did the foundation work because it's Kyle Whittingham's foundation or the school's foundation? Like and that's the thing that makes it difficult, right? Is that Morgan Scalley has to have his own personality, but he also probably wants to keep what's been working and keep the players there and keep all the things there that have been so good for so many years. And that's a hard thing to do when now it's your program.
It's really interesting because Morgan, at the media availability today, he said, look, I want to be myself, which alludes to what you're talking about. You got to find your own flavor to put on even the good stuff. And he said the list of people that he doesn't want to be like are the foundational coaches of what Utah football is now, all of whom he played for, had some level of relationship with. Ron McBride is the guy that laid the foundation. Urban Meyer had his 2 years. Morgan Scalley was a captain on those teams. Kyle Whittingham was the coordinator on those teams, and obviously Morgan built his entire coaching career under Kyle Whittingham. So it's not like he's just replacing Kyle and he only has Kyle's influence to draw from. He has direct personal experience and relationships with everyone responsible for Utah football's glory days.
He's going to ask you to hop on linebacker coach?
I think probably not.
Morale coach?
I would definitely, if he was just like, we want you to be the very specific coach of fullbacks we don't use in the offense and only run down on kickoff. I'd be like, yeah, I'm in. I can coach that one guy, no problem.
These staffs are so big. Like Oregon lost a bunch of staff members because Tosh took a bunch of guys with McCall, and Will Stein took guys with him, and they're all the analysts, right? And I saw some number where Oregon has 38 guys on staff, and he took number 30 to 38. The staffs now are so big, dude. It is crazy how many guys are in the building now.
It really is. 10 official position coaches, and then you've got assistant coaches basically for all of them, and then you've got quality control analysts for all of them. So you're talking.
We got 4 O-line coaches at Oregon. 4 O-line coaches at Oregon. Which is absolutely madness, of course. But
just one per player.
Look, I hope Morgan does well. You vouched for him. I'm not Utah. I don't care if you vouch for him, but I trust your opinion on it. I think that the tweet you put out, that seemed to piss people off. If Witt wants to keep the job, it's his job to keep, and I agree with that sentiment. Obviously, Utah didn't either. The way it went down just puts so much pressure on Morgan Scalley, way more than he needed to have, I think, and a lot of pressure on Mark Harlan, obviously, right? Because if Kyle Whittingham's going to win at Utah, in Michigan, right? Now, the degrees, I don't know, but if he wins and Utah doesn't, it's going to make things very awkward for Morgan Scalley.
How many players do you think Kyle Whittingham wants from the Utah roster to go to Michigan? Because Michigan is in a different realm recruiting-wise and athleticism-wise, but also Kyle Whittingham's calling card is he finds guys and maximizes what they are. Now, starting with better raw talent at Michigan, I think is going to be beautiful for him. But there are guys on this Utah roster that I think can play and even start at Michigan. I don't know if Kyle is interested in taking them, and that is now the new fear, I think, for most people. John Henry Daly, All-American defensive end, he announced his intentions to be in the transfer portal when it opens on Friday. That's a guy I could see being a Big Ten defensive end, but how many players do you think Utah needs to worry about losing specifically to Michigan?
Well, I heard his comment about that, saying I'm not going to tamper with players, and I think he's honest about that. There's other ways to tamper with players, right? So I imagine he has an idea of who he wants. Look, I think that I know coaches say things like, I'm not really a spiteful person. I'm not of course he is. He's a competitive person. He's trying to take everyone he can. Anyone he can, that's not tied down that he thinks is good enough to come with him. I imagine he's going to try to get those guys to come with him. Now, I obviously he has Underwood, so I don't think he's going to go and try to get Dampier, right? But I would imagine that if Spencer Fano was not going to the NFL, I would imagine he'd ask him to come with him, right? I think you have to worry about some of the recruits. There's that tackle that Utah signed, right, and making sure that he commits and stays there. But the resources, as you mentioned, they're just much different in Michigan, and so he can probably give guys more money, and you can point to maybe more NFL players and success. He hasn't had that success in Michigan, but you point to the playoff wins and the overall program history, and a lot of guys probably are going to be excited to come there if he wants them to come. But I don't have that number. I don't know who that's going to be. But look, you know that the quarterback at least is not one of those guys because he has Bryce Underwood. I don't think Bryce Underwood's going to go anywhere. So that's fascinating to me too, because the one thing that I've said about Coach Whittingham over the years is just the lack of sort of offensive development with skill guys and with quarterback play. Now Rising was good, but got hurt a bunch. Bryce Underwood and Whittingham feel like an odd fit. And so I'm just very curious to see how that pans out for him. I know we're talking Michigan football, but not Utah football. I'm just, that to me is like the most curious thing. I don't know how that's going to work for either party.
Jeff Schwartz for another couple of minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things college football. A focus right now on Utah and the departure of Kyle Whittingham to Michigan. Morgan Scalley's got a backfill at offensive coordinator position, which, let's be honest, was not the sexiest thing, the sexiest available job in any cycle because of the Kyle Whittingham reputation. As he's trying to find who his offensive coordinator is going to be, do you think Morgan has to overcome some of that still? Because there's this expectation that, yes, it's his program now, but there's going to be a lot of similarities to the old regime. And that old regime was one that a lot of offensive coordinators, it wouldn't be their first choice.
Right, but doesn't what happened this year with hiring Beck change that idea? Because look, I mean, that was an outside-the-box hire for this program, right? They went and got someone that typically doesn't fit what they've done in the past. It does feel like that would entice other coaches to want to come be the OC at Utah.
I think it does change the whole thing. I think that, Beck, by the way, was a guy that Morgan helped pick. So I think he's got a great eye for all that stuff, and I think that Beck probably wouldn't have ended up at Utah if it wasn't for Morgan's status as the head coach in waiting, which is one way that worked out well for the Utes. And now the expectation obviously is that Beck will be at Michigan, so it only worked out for the one season. But it's just really fascinating. Jay Hill is likely to go from BYU, and he's been instrumental in BYU's success since joining them after being the head coach at Weber State, joining the Cougs as the defensive coordinator. He's been really, really good in that role and is expected to take the same role with Kyle Whittingham at Michigan. Is BYU in a good enough place now, you think, as a team that they'll have kind of their pick of the litter when it comes to the coordinators?
Probably. I mean, look, a lot of it comes down to money and, what you can offer the coach and the upward mobility. But I have to think that BYU is a spot where you certainly would get a coach that you wanted, right, within a certain caliber. The money, the players are there, the vibes are there. Yeah, I think that anyone they want. Does the coaching staff, the assistant have to be Mormon too, or just the head coach?
I just learned this today. We had our BYU insider on, and he said, yeah, the coordinators, you kind of have to be. I don't know that it's official policy like it is with the head coaches, but his opinion, and he works for BYU TV, BYU Sports Nation. He knows all there is to know. He was like, yeah. You have a hard time elevating, because I asked him about Gary Anderson, who was a coordinator at Utah and he's got head coaching experience, etc. And if he doesn't follow Kyle to Michigan, would he be a candidate? He and Kalani have worked together a lot in the past, and he's on the staff right now as an analyst. And his answer was, I don't think you can elevate Gary Anderson because he's not a card carrying member, so to speak.
I appreciated Coach Sataki down in that Pop-Tart. Look, I like that they took full ownership of that bowl game. My team is playing a Big 12 team on 2 days, and buddy, the Big 12 fans, wow, it is aggressive on social media. It's aggressive.
How do you think that game's going to go? Oregon, Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. That's coming up on New Year's Day at noon. It is, of course, the Big 12's hope that Texas Tech can advance from a game like that. They are the only team in the playoff, I think, that's a top 5 offense and a top 5 scoring defense in the country. Are they good enough to beat Oregon in advance?
Blowout. Texas Tech's going to win. No. That's what their fans would like you to believe. I mean, look, so I am holistically, I think we have to view the college football regular season and the stats that come along with it a little bit differently for certain programs. We've done shows together forever, and I like using like the SP plus numbers, right? The Bill Conley numbers. And the issue I have this year is there are teams that spent the regular season solely preparing to play on January 1st, right? So Oregon was one of those teams. Ohio State, Indiana, Notre Dame to some extent. I mean, they didn't get in, obviously. Ohio State, Georgia. So, like, what they did in the regular season was to get ready to play in this game. And Oregon talked about that. Like, they changed their entire program philosophy and preparation schedule because of what happened in the Ohio State game last year, where they felt like they peaked in the regular season and weren't ready to play their best football on January 1st. So how much do the overall numbers matter in a game like this when you've been preparing all year to play this game, if that makes sense? Right now, you don't dismiss everything and say, oh, that doesn't matter, but like the idea that like Oregon has prepared for this game for a year, essentially. Like they have wanted to play this game for a year now, and they're healthy finally at wide receiver. And there were times this year when like they played in bad weather, when they just decide to sort of work on one thing in a given game and not do something else, and just like they tried to use different moments for different things. And I think that matters because Texas Tech has not been here before, and we saw last season that teams that kind of had not been there before really struggled in this round, and Oregon was one of them. And there is, I think, a little bit of a mentality, and I'm not really saying this is how every team deals with it, but there's a little bit, I think, just human nature to be happy you're there, right? When you're there the first time, you're just happy to be there. Now, it doesn't mean you practice any less, preparing any less, but there is just a human nature to be like, man, how cool is this? Like, we're here. Versus Oregon is like, no, this is business. Like, this is like, we did this last year, we sucked at it. Like, we're going to be better at this year. I think that really matters for this game because Oregon has prepped for this moment. No, they might lose. That's certainly possible. But I think they're better in a lot of positions. They are, I think, just sort of holistically better on both sides of the ball. The defensive ends for Texas Tech are incredible. The D tackles are fine. The linebackers are amazing. But other than that, on defense, the secondary is not great. You can attack that secondary if you can hold up and you can block, what you have to do. David Bailey and Height are incredible. And then Texas Tech offensively, they're not great in the red zone. They're very hit or miss. Like they have a ton of explosive plays and a ton of like 0-yard plays, right? They're sort of in the middle. And that doesn't feel great. And the one thing Oregon struggles with on defense is a mobile quarterback, which, by the way, everyone does. Not just an Oregon problem. Everyone struggles with mobile quarterbacks. But their quarterback has a broken leg. He can't move. And so I think that favors knowing where the quarterback is in the pocket is such a huge benefit to any defense that can rush the passer. So long story short, I think we're positioned well to play well in this game. Can't force, can't let them turn you over, right? That they're number one in the country, that which leads to their offense having the number one field position. But even in their good games, I think about your game, right? It was super close for a while, and they sort of broke that out late. The BYU games, were kind of close for a while until the very end when, again, the defense overwhelmed the opponent. Oregon is not going to be overwhelmed by Texas Tech. They haven't played this defense exactly, but they've played Iowa. They played, in Indiana. They've played off defense that are close to the caliber of Texas Tech. Texas Tech has not played a top 35 passing offense this season. So I think we're better prepared for this moment. I think we'll win. Texas Tech just throw numbers at me. I don't care. I don't care. When you get to this point of the year, it's not really about numbers, man. It's just not. It's about talent, coaching, situation. All those things I think matter a lot more to me than the raw numbers of the EPA and this and that. I don't really care at this time of the year.
So you expect Oregon to advance?
I do expect us to advance. Yes. What do you think? You watched Texas Tech maybe more than I did this season.
Yeah, I think that you make good points about having been there before, because it's hard not to have the big eyes and be like, "Yep, this is it. This is what we worked for. We've accomplished this." Oregon certainly doesn't feel that way because of what happened to them last year. So I think that's the task in front of Joey McGuire and his coaching staff, to be like, hey, this ain't it. You haven't actually accomplished anything yet, which, of course, isn't true because they have, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to that matchup, I think, as much as I am any other of these playoff games that we've had in the early goings. So we'll talk about it next week when you join me next Tuesday. And if If Oregon loses, then we'll
probably won't
pretend
be
that's
here.
what I.
I'll probably
we'll
just
pretend that's what I picked.
I'll probably just not be here. One last thing. I have no meeting to go to, so we can wait one more minute here. The thing that frustrated me most about this whole lead up is Texas Tech fans are like, we played Utah's offense. It's the same. We're ready for Oregon. I'm like, it's. Please stop. It's not the same thing. You got to stop. Like,
see what you
that,
did? Why'd you do that? You just unnecessarily just took a shot at Utah, pretending like Utah's not as good as Oregon.
It's not the same offense. Utah can run the ball very
well. We ran
well.
the ball a lot better.
Sure.
Our offensive line was much better than Oregon's.
It was. But the quarterback play is not the same thing, and that kind of matters.
Yeah.
It kind of matters.
Tell me that
when
Devin Dampier's starting at Michigan next year, buddy.
Bryce, I mean, you don't think Bryce Underwood's going to get that job?
I do, actually. Kyle Whittingham seems pretty impressed by him, but
he seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think one of the big questions for Friday, and I'll be doing the show on Friday, is where's Devin Dampier going to be? Because he's been very careful not to say that he's coming back to Utah, but very careful not to say that he has other plans either.
I like Utah to cover that game, by the way. I mean, I did a lot with Kyle Whittingham as a coach. I think I still like them now. I think Nebraska's just sort of dead.
That's kind of what we're hoping for. I want to see Morgan win his first game as the head coach.
All right, buddy. I'll see you in Charlotte in a year. Looking forward to it.
In 7 months, actually.
When is it?
It's supposed to be in July.
I mean, July's a big month for me. Like when July?
I'm not supposed to release dates until the company releases them, so
Right,
I'll
just text me.
All right.
All right, bye, buddy.
All right, man. See you. That's Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, who he likes his Ducks to beat Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. Those New Year's Day games will be available down here on all the beautiful big screens at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. And Patrick, the owner, proprietor, muscle behind the operation here, is sitting with us again. You're going to do another ticket raffle for your hockey tickets?
Yeah, I think so. It was a great success last month. We had a lot of fun entertaining the new people that came down. We showed them the place, and then eventually the couple that won, we had a great time at the game with them, so we thought we'd do it again for February.
So all month of January, you can come down to Big Willie's, fill out a raffle ticket, tell them you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show, tell them OC sent you, and you want to enter the hockey ticket raffle, and the game's going to be Red Wings versus Mammoth on February 4th.
Correct. I believe it's a Friday game at 7, so.
Beautiful. So get a babysitter, or if you don't need one, you don't have to get one. And you actually get to hang out with Patrick and his lovely wife at the game. It's on their personal tickets. And last time was a success, so let's make this time a success also.
Yeah. We'll probably do the drawing in studio on January 30th. So that's the whole month of January.
Nice. All right.
Gives people enough time to come down and hang out and fill out a raffle.
1717 South Main Street in Salt Lake City, the number one sports bar in the state and the number one pool hall in the state. And I just mentioned it, those New Year's Day games, the playoff games, you're going to have those running all day.
Yes. Yeah, we'll sound will be on. They'll all be on all viewing angles. Come down, check it out, get a craft cocktail.
Great drink specials. You really keep it like, I mean, I know the spirits themselves rotate, but you keep the daily special around that $4, right?
Yeah. Yep, it stays around that price. And we're just not giving away bottom shelf liquor here, guys. It's all premium to mid shelf on special. So
take advantage while you can. 1717 South Main. Come down. Tell them OC sent you. They'll allow you to sign up for that Mammoth ticket raffle for a Friday game, February 4th. All right, we got to take a quick one here. Gordy Chiesa joins us next. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Gordy Chiesa in our Broadway studios to talk a little NBA. Gordy, welcome back. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
LeBron James' birthday. Are you sending him a gift?
Yes, very much. And it's amazing. He turns 41 years young. Sean emphasized young, and we've never seen a guy play at that level like he has. The only guy comparable would be Tom Brady, who at age 45 was still throwing darts down the floor until after 23 seasons. So it's ironically, this is LeBron's 23rd year, and that was Tom Brady's also 23rd year. It was last. Here's his quick metrics, Sean. LeBron this year is averaging at age 41, 23.9 points per game, 7.4 assists, 7.1 rebounds, 2 made threes a game, and shooting from the floor 52%. So he's been sensational.
He's spent more than half of his life in the NBA and helped kind of shape what the NBA has become, aside from his time on the floor, because he's one of the greatest players in the history of the game. What do you think LeBron's biggest impact is, kind of accessory to or adjacent to the court?
His outreach to as far as all different things he's done off the court. A lot of it's not publicized, but he gives a lot of charity work to help people, and it's really been a special moment for him, including, back in his hometown of Akron, Ohio, where he gave millions of dollars to the kids there as far as the computers and textbooks, etc. And just generally speaking, is that he's a very charitable person. So that's his biggest thing. And also is that from a player standpoint, is that he's very engaging with the young players. He respects the game, and that's a huge factor as far as the younger people when you look up to LeBron. We've never seen a guy play that long at that high level. Good for him.
We talked a lot about Jokic in our last conversation, and then he immediately goes down, and it looked as he was on the floor, you always fear the worst, but the latest report is that he'll only have to miss about 4 weeks. What kind of bullet did the Nuggets dodge there?
Huge, absolutely. So Sean's alluding to Jokic last night in Miami in a loss where he got tangled up with a teammate playing help defense. It was an accident, and his knee buckled. So now it's a left knee sprain, usually speaking 4 to 5 weeks versus a torn ACL, which means what, Sean? 10 months to a year. And so hopefully they'll get him back, and they're going to use absolutely good caution. They're going to back probably, let's say, Sean, after the All-Star break, if not early March then, and then they have a chance to regroup then. They're playing great, the Nuggets. Let's not forget also they're playing without Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, and Cam Johnson. And so now Jamal Murray is the only starter that is going to try to hold down the fortress. And now Jonas Valanciunas now is going to be a big factor. He's the backup center. He has to come through for them, and that's what they tried to acquire him last summer for.
We've talked about a couple of proposed anti-tanking measures, and one of my favorite guys who covers the Jazz and the NBA, Andy Larson, talked about changing national television revenue unevenly so that top teams make more money than bad teams, which of course would incentivize teams to not be bad. You could make more money. You think this is a realistic solution?
It's unlikely, and the reason why is that it's an all for one, one for all. There are the 30 owners in the NBA. They have different directions as far as their own franchises, but the league, though, is all united. So it sounds good by Andy, but it'd be unlikely. You have to get 2/3 of the majority to vote for that proposal, and there's no way that will happen then. Because, again, the way it is that there's always that invisible dialogue where the NBA favors the big market teams and the smaller guys never get any breaks. And that's always undercurrent, and that would be just as much also, that if you're a glamour team, you get more revenue than a lesser team.
We talk about the professionalization of college sports, and most of what we're saying is like now college athletes are getting paid. And these last couple of times you've joined me, we've had to talk about a two-way player that's going back to college, and now an NBA draft pick that's going back to college. And it's become enough of a conversation that the president of the NCAA is talking about, figuring out measures that need to be taken or avoiding the crossover here. What does the NBA think of it? Can they do anything to help out an NCAA that is toothless and hopeless and a huge mess in making sure that you don't have these kind of convoluted situations?
Yeah, the answer is very much. They could stop it very easily. The next bargaining agreement where you cannot do it. That once you're a professional athlete, you can't go back. You can go back to college, but you can't play. And so the college coaches that we all know are absolutely vehemently against it. And the NBA could be with alliance with the college NCAA and also the college coaches, is that the player, if once you play professional basketball, you cannot go to college and play. So everyone wants the players to stay professional and not go back and forth. So it sounds weird. So Chris Paul at age 40, the way it is now today, if he choose to, Chris Paul, because he left there for his sophomore year at Wake Forest, he could technically go back to a university and play 2 more years, technically, the way the rules are right now.
Hey, LeBron's 43. He never played a single second
Correct.
of college basketball. Let's go.
Right.
Let's
That's
get him in Brennan Utes uniform.
You're right. That's how absurd it is right now. So everyone's against it, and so Scott Drew, the head coach of Baylor University, he was the first one to do it. His name is James Nazi. Is the 31st pick of the draft. Played overseas for 4 years. Has never played an NBA game, but he played in summer league, and now he's going to go to Baylor, and Baylor's in the Big 12, so he's going to play against the Utes. They're going to play against the BYU. Everyone's against it.
Charlie Baker, the president, said, the NCAA has not and will not grant eligibility to any prospective or returning student-athletes who have signed an NBA contract, including a 2-way contract. So they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to fix it. That was a tweet from an hour and 15 minutes ago.
Sure.
So,
And, Charlie Baker, Sean, just for a reference point, he's the former governor of Massachusetts.
That's right. So, fingers crossed that they can get that figured out, because that's one of those weird loopholes that I don't really have a whole lot of interest in seeing pro players bouncing back. The overseas stuff, it's kind of always been like that, where guys, the system overseas is different. Do we need to regulate that more tightly, in your opinion?
No, not at all. So the overseas is that a player is drafted, and either the team thinks we like his potential, but it's not a roster spot, so that we're going to send him over to Europe and play, and that we retain his rights if we keep offering him a contract. And then when he's improved, or he wants to come back to the States, then the NBA team can pay roughly up to $900,000 for the buyout of the contract. So a guy's drafted late in the second round. Our team is loaded, meaning they'd say a playoff-type team, but you like him. He goes to Europe, plays for Madrid in Spain, and now 2 years later, there's an opening on your roster, or he improved dramatically under contract with the Real Madrid in Spain, so now they can buy out the contract and come to the stateside and play in the NBA. That's how it works. And the system's been very good. And FIBA and NBA basketball has really good alliance. So it has worked out, and both parties enjoy the benefit of it.
Gordy, what's the list today?
List today, Sean. Tonight, the Jazz are rolling 2 straight in a good way. They play the Celtics. So the Celtics are the number 1 franchise for most ever NBA titles, with 18, which is crazy. They're a proud franchise. So this list today, and Sean, I had to cut out like so many guys in the Hall of Fame. So they have the most players in the Hall of Fame, the Boston Celtics. I cut these guys out like they're like loose change. This list today is the dozen top all-time greatest Boston Celtic players. Number 12, he's playing tonight in the Delta Center, Jaylen Brown, future Hall of Famer, 4-time All-Star, 1-time NBA champion. In 2024, was the MVP of the finals. Number 11, greatest Celtics. He's in the Hall of Fame in the class of 2020. Kevin Garnett, the big ticket, played for the Celtics for 6 years, 1 title back in 2008. Number 10, all-time Celtics. Nickname was the Chief. Robert Parrish, Hall of Famer, inducted 2003. We know about his game with that high arcing jump shot. Tremendous rebounder, 3 titles. Number 9, the world's greatest ever bank shooter of all time. It's not even close. For the younger listeners, before I say his name, this guy was a combination of Dwayne Wade and Ray Allen. That's who he played like. His name is Sam Jones, Hall of Famer, 1984, 10 titles in 12 years. Number 8 all time, Dave Cowens, Hall of Famer, 1991, 2 titles, 6'9", rugged, unbelievable center. He was the heart of the Celtics in the 1970s. Number 7 all time. He's hurt right now. He hasn't played a minute for the Celtics this year. 6-time All-Star, 4-time first-team All-NBA. He's only 27 years young, future Hall of Famer. We all love this guy's game. He's out with an Achilles injury. Jason Tatum. Number 6 all time. Nickname, Sean, was Houdini of the Hardwood. Bob Cousy, Hall of Famer, 1971. He was the first ever great point guard. NBA titles 6. Number 5, nickname was The Truth. Paul Pierce, Hall of Famer, inducted 2021. 15 years in the Celtics green, 1 NBA title, clutch scorer. Number 4, one of the best players of all time as far as interior footwork, Kevin McHale. Hall of Famer, 1999, 3 titles. Number 3, nickname was Hondo, one of the all-time greatest players of any era, two-way player, John Havlicek, Hall of Famer in 1984, 6 NBA titles in 16 years. Number 2, Larry Legend, Larry Bird, one of the all-time greatest shooters, clutch players, rebounders, passers. I just keep going on. Hall of Fame inducted 1998, 3 titles. And the number 1 Celtic player of all time is Bill Russell, Hall of Fame inducted 1975, 11 NBA titles in 13 years as a player, coach also. He's the greatest ever Game 7 performer. He played in 10 Game 7s. His record is 10-0. He was MVP 5 times in the NBA, and the MVP of the playoffs is named after him. Sean, thus, this is my list of the greatest ever Celtics. I left out so many people in the Hall of Fame. I feel bad.
That's such a long list. Great franchises makes it a lot tougher. Before I let you go, we were having a conversation about eligible NFL Hall of Famers, and Frank Gore, I'm sure you're familiar with Frank
Yes,
Gore.
I am. I love him.
Frank Gore's on the list largely because of his longevity at a position where it's really, really difficult to have longevity. And I'm of the opinion that if you're a guy who's been able to hang around when no one else has been able to hang around, that's worthy of at least Hall of Fame discussion. It's tougher in the NBA because, I mean, you'd have to play like 30 years in the NBA to really be an outlier from a longevity standpoint. But is that enough for you to be in the Hall of Fame? Maybe you were never the best at your position. Maybe you were never, he's never been an all-pro in the NFL. Frank Gore hasn't. He's been a Pro Bowler but not an all-pro. Does he still deserve to be in because he played 17 years at one of the toughest positions to last?
Yes, absolutely, especially with Frank Gore because he could run the ball between the tackles, and also he was great as far as in the clutch, as far as him in the short pass game. And so the answer is yes. So longevity is a factor in sports. If you have a solid career and you play for a long time and you on either on a championship team or near championships as far as playoff-type teams all those years, you're definitely worthy. Absolutely.
I agree, Gordy. You're the man. Always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Peace out.
That's Gordy Chiesa, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. All right, we'll close it out from Big Willie's next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, closing out the show on a Tuesday here at Big Willie's. They've got drink specials going on all day, food specials going on all day. More importantly, tomorrow, a huge day. Vegas Bowl, Utah against Nebraska. Come down and watch it. Food specials and drink specials continue. Less than $4 for premium liquor on the shots. And obviously, even if you're not imbibing, they got all the soda, the water, the incredible food. And heading into the New Year's Eve kind of celebration after the bowl game is over, they will have prize giveaways. They're going to have a balloon drop. The balloons actually have prizes in them. Pop that balloon. Prizes anywhere from $1 to $100 to come out of that. They'll have they'll have the jukebox rolling. They'll keep the volume at a conversational level, so it's not going to be like this crazy club atmosphere where you're having to shout to get your words heard. They're going to keep it low-key and have some fun, but a perfect place to celebrate your New Year. And then the New Year's Day games, they've got the full slate of those and more food and drink specials. Also, between now and the end of January, you can come down to Big Willie's, tell them that you heard about the show, heard about the place on the Sean O'Connell Show, and they're going to allow you to enter that raffle for a pair of Utah Mammoth tickets. And these are really, really nice tickets, club-level tickets. They're Pat Michelle's actual tickets, and they're going to go to the game with you. That's a February 4th visit from the Detroit Red Wings. So come down to 1717 South Main. Tell them you heard about it on the Sean O'Connell Show. Enter your name in the raffle for the whole month of January. Big thanks to Big Willie's for having us down here. Thanks to Tanner and everyone, DJ, everyone who helped us set it up. And a reminder before we get out of here, Young Automotive Group year-end sales event is happening now through January 3rd. Qualifying purchases receive a $1,000 Amazon gift card, 5 years of maintenance, and 90 days with no payments. When you finance with America First Credit Union, the Ute pregame show is actually going to be at Young Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Riverdale on 1481 West Riverdale Road. That's 9:30 to 11:30. So go test drive, say hello to Porter, and cash in on the savings for Young Automotive Group's year-end sales event. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. The Drive with Spence Checketts is next. We're back live on Friday. Everybody be safe. Have a great New Year celebration, and we'll be talking transfer portal when it opens on Friday. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.